Chapter 1987. An expert. Everyone was shocked. They hurriedly took out their weapons, the defensive Dharma artifacts they wore, and the Dharma inscriptions on their armors glowed. They looked around in confusion. Where is he? Even Bai Yulong was scared out of his wits. He stopped moving and wrapped his clothes tightly around himself. He then took out flying swords and circled them around his body. He scanned the surroundings vigilantly. The dead follower was at least a peak-stage golden core cultivator. But he was killed in an instant. Not only that, but they didn't even know who did it and how it was done. This meant that the attacker was at least a nascent soul heavenly lord. He was definitely as powerful as him. Everyone looked around. However, other than Bai Yulong's people, only Kong Qing and Lu Manhan were left in the hall. They didn't have the strength to do that. Who did it? Who is it? Is it a monster? Everyone was frightened. They thought of the legends about the monsters on the snowy mountain and felt uneasy. Drops of cold sweat slid down their foreheads. Fear came from the unknown. I'm right in front of you. The white civet cat spoke in human language. Its voice was so loud that it seemed to come from the 9 heavens. It jumped down from the beam and walked 2 steps. Although it was a cat, its footsteps were vigorous and extraordinary. The laziness it had a moment ago was gone. It's a demonic cat. It hasn't even transformed. How can it have the strength of a nascent soul cultivator? Some of the experts were enlightened and heaved a sigh of relief. Some were even more confused. Anyway, they weren't as scared and uneasy as they were before. It's just a 4-legged long-haired beast. I'm afraid it has only formed a monster core and hasn't transformed its nascent soul. The Bai family has killed many such beasts. Bai Yulong sneered. He seemed to be encouraging his followers and comforting himself. Is that so? The white civet cat's eyes were cold and deep. It approached the crowd as if it was taking a stroll. He was clearly a demonic beast, but everyone suddenly felt that he was high and mighty, as if he was a god that sat above the 9 heavens and looked down on all living beings. As he approached, under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the body of the white civet cat gradually grew larger. Suddenly, it stood up like a human and turned into a young man in white with an ethereal aura. This young man's appearance was extremely handsome, and his aura was ethereal, otherworldly, and extraordinary. He gave others an extremely divine feeling, and he was like a god that had descended into the world. A nascent soul great demon. Everyone's expression changed and they trembled in fear as they retreated. It's actually... Bai Yulong was so regretful that he wanted to slap his thigh and break it. He was so shocked that cold sweat broke out on his forehead and he could barely stand. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that a girl from a poor family like Lu Manhan would be able to raise a nascent soul demon. It was as inconceivable as seeing a girl who couldn't even fill her stomach on earth raise a Bengal tiger. He cursed in his heart. This time he had kicked an iron plate. If he was not careful, he might not even be able to keep his life. Senior, I would like to make a deal with you. Bai Yulong forced himself to calm down. He forced a smile and cupped his fists, trying to persuade Jiang Tian with his glib tongue. Whether it was threats or temptations, there was always a chance that he could live. After all, he was a collateral member of the Bai family of the Duke of Beijiang. The Bai family was extremely powerful and was known for their vengeance. Even demonic beasts were not willing to offend the Bai family. Otherwise, the Bai family would seek revenge even if they had to go to the heavens to avenge their clan. Over the years, the Bai family had destroyed more than hundreds of demonic beast lairs. Therefore, he thought that as long as he stated his strength, this demonic cat would definitely retreat. I've already let your master go and she hasn't suffered any substantial injuries. Why do you have to do this? However, before he could finish his sentence, Jiang Tian had already made his move. His jade-white and translucent right hand, which was like fine jade, stretched out without the slightest trace of smoke or fire. He tapped the air. Bang! Bai Yulong's head exploded. Red and white matter and divine soul fragments spread out in the air like blooming fireworks. Then his neck, chest, limbs, and even the golden core that was said to be indestructible exploded one after another, splashing in all directions. Before Bai Yulong died, there was still a look of endless shock on his face. It was as if he could not believe that his opponent would be so ruthless and decisive, killing him before he could even finish his sentence. Before the remains of his flesh and blood could spread out, they turned into plumes of green smoke and ashes and dissipated into nothingness. Only his folding fan, jade pendant, storage ring and other items were left behind. They fell to the ground. It was as if Bai Yulong had never existed in this world. Senior. I know I was wrong. Please spare my life. I'm not a bad person. I have a mother and a 3-year-old child at home. My wife's health is not good enough and she's sick. I had no choice but to work for Bai Yulong to make a living. I've always hated what that bastard Bai Yulong did. I've tried to persuade him many times, but he wouldn't listen to me. Senior, please forgive me. Just treat me as a fart and let me go. Many of the arrogant followers were scared out of their wits after seeing this. They scrambled to throw away their Dharma artifacts and kneeled on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Although Bai Yulong's cultivation was similar to that of the dead follower, the fact that he had been killed with a snap of his fingers was even more shocking. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. This was because Bai Yulong had a few defensive Dharma artifacts with him that could withstand the attack of a soul formation stage cultivator. However, his surging Dharma power did not explode at all. It was as if the runes had been obliterated and imprisoned. Because of this, they could not understand Jiang Tian's strength at all. However, they knew that even if all of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. In the face of their pitiful begging, Jiang Tian did not bat an eyelid. His eyes were cold and he did not hesitate at all. He waved his hand and flicked his fingers as if he was playing a pipa. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions sounded one after another. All of the followers exploded and turned into green smoke, drifting into the void. Thank you for saving my life, Senior. I will never forget your kindness. Only at this moment did Lu Manhan come to her senses. She straightened her clothes, tidied her hair and respectfully bowed before Jiang Tian. Senior, please teach me the cultivation method. Kongqing also came to his senses and knelt down in excitement. He kowtowed 3 times and bowed 9 times in gratitude and reverence. I, Jiang Tian, calmly accepted their 3 kowtows and 9 kowtows. Then he casually grabbed the item left behind by Bai Yulong. Then, under the incredulous gaze of the two, he turned into the appearance of Bai Yulong. His eyebrows and eyes moved and he grinned and puffed up his cheeks. It seemed that he wanted to make his facial features, which had been stiff for a long time, become flexible. After a while, Jiang Tian chuckled and waved his folding fan lightly. He said in a frivolous tone, "That's right. From now on I am Bai Yulong, the son of the city lord. You two come with me to watch the Snowdance sect competition. In the competition, Bai Yulong, who has tender feelings for the fairer sex, will help those in danger and help those in distress. He will be chivalrous and fight with the Lotus Harvester. You two, when the time comes, you must be a witness." "Yes, Senior." "No, Master Bai." Lu Manhan and Kongqing were confused. They did not know what Jiang Tian was up to. But in any case, Jiang Tian had saved their lives. They must repay this kindness. Of course they would listen to him. Chapter 1988. On the other side. The Imperial City. For the past few days, the area around the Imperial Advisor's residence, or rather the entire Imperial City, was unprecedentedly lively. From the eastern gorge, the west ridge, the northern borderline, the southern basin. All over the country, the dukes and their heirs, the city lords, and the big shots of the aristocratic families came one after another. Even the neighboring Black Moon Empire sent many big shots. This housewarming banquet had exceeded Lin Dyer's imagination from the very beginning. When she arrived at the Imperial Advisor's residence, she saw many dazzling flying boats, cloud towers and immortal birds and spirit beasts landing on the square in front of the gate. Qilin beasts, cheongqis and even flood dragons, blue phoenixes, white cranes and peacocks were used as mounts. Many of them had reached the nascent soul realm, and their strength was not inferior to hers. Those flying boats and cloud towers were all priceless, and none of them were lower than doctrine artifacts. Looking at their Dao patterns and forging styles, some of them came from the nobles and the royal family's blacksmithing shops, while others came from famous sects and other empires. Many guests had arrived, but more were still on their way. Streaks of dazzling light that shook the sky suddenly descended from the city tower of the royal capital and turned into aircraft. After being checked by the city defense, they turned into long rainbows again and flew in the direction of the Grand Preceptor's mansion. Oh my God, the housewarming banquet of the Imperial Advisor's residence is so grand. So many doctrine artifacts and true artifacts. There are countless of them. In the Imperial City, countless residents looked up and felt the vast waves of Dharma power. Looking at the majestic flying boats, they were shocked. Not only the marquises of the empire came to congratulate us, but even other countries sent special envoys. What's more, some hidden sects are also here. Someone said excitedly with a red face. I heard that the 9 mystery sects Saintess Fairy Qingjue is here. This is giving too much face. Is it? Not only that, but the ancient medicine hall is also here. An elder Gu is here. The imperial advisor's housewarming banquet is a cause for celebration. Everyone was extremely excited, and some people even took out fireworks and firecrackers and set them off as if it was a festival. Thousands of countries and sects are here to congratulate us. I heard that even the crown prince of the Black Moon Empire in the south is here. This was simply an unprecedented and glorious occasion. This was an unprecedented honor. This sage Xiqing has brought glory to our empire. Brothers, this golden age will be as you wish. In an old tavern, a lame veteran suddenly gulped down a mouthful of strong liquor. His eyes were slightly red as tears streamed down his face. Yes. It was said that Saint Xiqing's strength was earth-shattering. She could stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the Sacred Ground Divine Sect. She was not inferior to the old saints of the royal family. Furthermore, he is still young and vigorous and in his prime. After he becomes the national advisor, he will definitely bring unimaginable changes and development to the empire. As a matter of fact, after hearing that the royal master was a rogue cultivator from beyond the Milky Way, the natives of the empire were very resistant and unconvinced. Everyone in the streets, taverns, and tea houses were talking about him, belittling and disdaining him in various ways. What unknown origin, using underhanded means to get to the top. Harboring evil intentions that would cause chaos in the empire. What do you mean by, if one's virtue does not match his position, there will be calamities? This was especially true for the diehards within the royal family, who had all sorts of criticisms. Even if they knew that the feudal lords were rising and that the royal family was weak and precarious, they were still conservative and thought highly of themselves. They looked down on the common people and immigrants and were unwilling to introduce new blood. However, when they saw the scene of countless experts coming to congratulate him, the direction of the wind unconsciously changed. The first to agree with Jiang Tian were the common people, followed by the nobles and officials, and in the end, even the diehards in the royal family had to admit the terrifying influence of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian had transformed from a lowly rogue cultivator from outside the Milky Way galaxy to a peerless giant. He had become a peerless genius and had even become the hope of the empire. If the common people are like frogs at the bottom of a well, ants under a leaf. You are narrow-minded, how can you know Jiang Xiqing's strength? I have seen it with my own eyes. Lin Dyer, who had sensed these discussions with her divine sense, also secretly sneered with a sense of superiority and scoffed. However, when she realized that she was proud to have seen Jiang Tian's strength, she felt a wave of disgust in her heart and thought with a sense of superiority, what bullshit imperial tutor saint, they are all supported by our Lin family. Looking at it, Fang Guoyu could not help but feel shocked. She originally thought that only the feudal lords had come to congratulate him, but she did not expect that other empires, hidden sects, and even some holy lands had sent people to congratulate him. It seems that I have underestimated the influence of Saint Xiqing, Fang Guoyu said in shock. At this time she was strolling around the residence with the Lin siblings. The imperial tutor's residence was too big. It had been rebuilt from the crown prince's residence, and it had also merged with the residences of several princes next to it. There were so many sceneries that one would not get tired of walking around for 3 days and 3 nights. Many of the sceneries were made up of spiritual herbs and spirit-gathering formations, which were beneficial to one's cultivation. Yes, amazing. Lin Yang was very happy for Jiang Tian and said proudly, when I first saw him I felt that he was extraordinary. Now look at this, his name has shaken the continent and he can be called an unparalleled giant. My foresight is not bad. Although Lin did not speak, she was secretly shocked. She originally thought that Jiang Tian could not suppress the many dukes and marquises, but now she had to admit that Jiang Tian might really be able to realize the reform of the county system. Brother Lin, Sister Guoyu, Sister Dai, A soft and pleasant voice sounded. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young girl walking through the forest. The young girl was tall and graceful with exquisite curves. She wore a passionate and hot red dress. Her facial features were exquisite, her skin was snowy white, her lips were red like flames, and her big watery eyes seemed to be able to speak. She was sexy and cute at the same time. She could be called a stunner. The daughter of the Duke of Eastern Gorge, Long Zhuxia. Feng Guoyu was on guard. This was because the Duke of Eastern Gorge's Long family had been close to the Duke of Beijiang and the Marquis of Purple Robe, but had been estranged from the Feng family and the Lin family. Moreover, Long Zhuxia was extremely beautiful and was sought after by Zhanyun, Yang Xian and other heirs, forming a small group that took pleasure in trampling on Lin Yang. Although Feng Guoyu looked at the big picture and did not care about these small disputes, it was enough to see their attitude toward the Lin family. Although Feng Guoyu was on guard, her face was full of smiles. She said enthusiastically, "Sister Shui, your face is rosy as if the cold poison in your body has been completely expelled. Congratulations." "Yes. This matter is all thanks to Sage Xiqing." "Yes." Long Zhuxia curtsied elegantly and said with a smile, "Back in Icebound City at the branch of the ancient medicine hall, I wanted to buy the Falling Sunstone for treatment. But it was bought by the sage. Later we asked to see an alchemy master and found out that the Falling Sunstone's fire poison was extremely strong and could not treat the cold poison in my body. Moreover, the jealousy poison would attack my heart and cause my body to explode and die. I originally wanted to thank Sage Xiqing properly, but the sage is now the teacher of a country and has many affairs to attend to every day. How could I have the chance to meet her? I can only return this favor to you. After the housewarming banquet, I will invite the three of you to another banquet." Her beautiful eyes were kind and she was extremely amiable. She was good with money and she was two-faced. Compared to her usual arrogant and conceited self, she was like a completely different person. Chapter 1989. Don't try to curry favor with me. Back then you didn't spare the Lin family. Lin Dai's face was frosty as she mocked her. "Sister Dai, you may not know this, but you are beautiful and talented. I have idolized you since you were a child, but I was jealous, so I targeted you time and time again. But now I understand that I was too young and ignorant." Long Zhuxia was ashamed and her eyes even reddened. "Ahem, Sister Shui, you are exaggerating." Beside her, Feng Guoyu was smiling, but she was even more vigilant. Long Zhuxia was jealous of Lin Dai. This could deceive ghosts, but it was disgusting to deceive people. In terms of background, Long Zhuxia was the heir of a duke ranked in the top 4, and her family's wealth and power were more than 10 times that of the Lin family. In terms of cultivation, Long Zhuxia could also be called a female genius of the empire, and was on par with Feng Guoyu, leaving Lin Dai far behind. In terms of appearance, Long Zhuxia was famous all over the world, and many heirs of dukes and marquises regarded her as a goddess, while Lin Dai was far from her. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. She felt that Long Zhuxia had suppressed her arrogant and domineering personality and was trying to curry favor with Lin Dai. She also hoped that Lin Dai wouldn't fall for it. But Lin Dai was too vain and didn't know her own worth. Long Zhuxia's words were like scratching an itch, making her feel so comfortable that all her bones felt lighter. Long Zhuxia is jealous of me. Now she wants to idolize me and follow in my footsteps. It's not that I can't forgive her. Lin Dai thought, and the frost on her face receded as if spring had returned to the earth. Long Zhuxia flattered her again, and gave her 2 jade hairpins bought from the imperial treasury. Lin Dai had already begun to call Long Zhuxia sister, and they were just short of becoming sworn brothers. "Brother Lin, Sister Guoyu, let's walk around. I will introduce a few sisters to Sister Dai. They also idolize Sister Dai." Long Zhuxia said. Lin Dai simply could not resist the feeling of being the center of attention. Over the years, the Zhenyuan Marquis Lin family had been living in the cracks, oppressed by the purple-robed Marquis and facing the danger of being annexed and invaded at all times. She was extremely jittery and she felt as if every tree and grass was an enemy. She was extremely careful all day long as if she was walking on thin ice, and she felt extremely depressed in her heart. Most importantly, she'd suffered too many setbacks in front of Jiang Tian in recent days, and she was extremely frustrated and anxious in her heart. She really wanted to take a breather and enjoy the adoration and flattery of others. "Yes, I'll be right back." Lin Dai left with Long Zhuxia, and Feng Guoyu couldn't stop them even if she wanted to. Watching the two leave, Feng Guoyu felt extremely helpless towards this foolish sister-in-law of hers. She frowned and worriedly said, Lin Yong is not worthy of the position, there will be a disaster. The Lin family's current state was all thanks to the sage's help and care. However, their own strength was not enough to withstand a single blow. But doesn't understand this and doesn't know her own flaws. I'm worried that she'll be used by Long Juxue. What can Long Juxue use her for? Lin Yong didn't take it to heart and said indifferently, I think that Long Juxue might feel that the Lin family has a deep relationship with the sage, so she wants to use us to get closer to Sage Xiqing and gain a bit of an advantage in the hidden dragon trials. I hope so, Feng Guoyu said helplessly. Long Juxue had a wide circle of friends and brought Lin Dai to many gatherings. Not only did they meet the heirs of the empire's dukes, but they also met the princes and crown princes of other countries, and even some important figures from the sacred grounds and sections. Everywhere they went, Long Juxue would grandly introduce Lin Dai and desperately flatter her, not stingy with her praise. Everyone also went with the flow and gave her face, giving her the respect she deserved, and even flattery flew everywhere. The daughter of the Lin family, a genius girl, already a nascent soul cultivator. Her future is limitless. Xingyuan Ho is young and vigorous and his future is bright. The two heirs of the Lin family are both dragons and phoenixes among men. In the hidden dragon trials, they will definitely soar into the sky and crush the other heirs of the dukes and marquises, taking first place. This fief will greatly expand and maybe they will even become dukes. The Lin family deserves great credit for suppressing the Purple Marquis's rebellion. Lin Dai's ears were filled with such voices. She had never enjoyed such glory as today, being the focus of everyone's attention and being held up high like a peerless pearl. She felt that she had never been in such a good mood since she was born. However, in the bottom of her heart, there was a faint trace of discomfort. Everyone thought so. If the hidden dragon trials followed the old system, my brother and I would definitely be able to take first place and obtain great benefits for the family. But Jiang Xiqing, this brainless person, not only did she want to abolish the system of the hidden dragon trials, she even wanted to abolish the dukedom system. Cutting off one's path to wealth is like killing one's parents. Why did Jiang Xiqing do all this? It was a thankless task. Was it to curry favor with the Eastern imperial family? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, and the more she felt that Jiang Tian was unreasonable. In the end, under Long Jushue's recommendation, Lin Dai even met the crown prince of the Black Moon Empire in the south, Wu Yicheng. Miss Lin, I have long heard of your name and admire you greatly. Seeing you today, I realize that you are like a peerless pearl, a rare treasure. Your reputation is well-deserved. Wu Yicheng was tall and straight, mighty and imposing, but he had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a straight nose and a square mouth. He was extremely handsome and his manners were quite proper and refined. He smiled before speaking, giving people a feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. His words are too pleasant to hear. His posture is too comfortable. Unlike Jiang Xiqing, who is like a stone in a latrine, smelly and hard. He is only good at fighting and killing. In terms of governance, I'm afraid he is not as good as Crown Prince Yicheng. Looking at Wu Yicheng, Lin Dai was enraptured. Crown Prince Yicheng is too kind. I am only the daughter of a marquis. I am not worthy of your praise. The other party's modest and polite attitude made Lin Dai feel flattered. She hurriedly curtsied, showing her tactful and elegant side. Crown Prince Yicheng had a powerful cultivation and was already at the middle stage of the divine transformation realm. Moreover, he had received guidance from an expert and was a true disciple of a peerless prestigious sect. Behind him there was more than one saint of the Void Return realm. He was known as one of the 4 great crown princes of the continent and had the bearing of an overlord. His name was completely superior to Dongfang Ding's. Even a young and handsome man like Li Yichen could not be compared to him. Virtuous, soft on the outside but strong on the inside. If this is not a peerless pearl, what is? Wu Yicheng gave up his seat and smiled, making people have a good impression of him and quickly closing the distance between them. After the guests and the host were seated, Crown Prince Yicheng chatted with the 2 girls. He was good at provoking topics, pointing out the world from a strategically advantageous position, and had extraordinary knowledge. Crown Prince Yichang knew everything from major issues such as the division and unification of the continent and the competition on the path to immortality, to the internal affairs and foreign affairs of various countries, to the minor issues such as cultivation methods, refining tools and refining pills. Moreover, he was good at enlightening people's minds. Many of the doubts in Lin Dai's heart were easily solved and enlightened. This made Lin Dai admire him even more. She felt that Wu Yachang's cultivation and strength might not be as good as Jiang Tian's, but in terms of knowledge he was 10 times or 100 times more knowledgeable than Jiang Tian. In particular, his grasp of the empire's evidence was much deeper than Jiang Tian's. After chatting for a while, Wu Yachang suddenly looked at Lin Dai, with a pair of bright eyes and asked, "Miss Lin Dai, are you married?" Chapter 1990. Dai pursues the supreme Tao wholeheartedly without any distractions. She has no lover and is unmarried. Lin Dai's heart thumped wildly. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, blushing, "Good, good, good." Crown Prince Yichang praised her with an infatuated look. Long Juxue giggled and covered her mouth. "Crown Prince, why is it good? What's so good about it? Are you interested in Miss Dai? Hearing that the beauty is still single, you want to be her cultivation companion?" "Shwe, if you continue to talk nonsense like this, I'll tear your mouth apart." Lin Dai was very happy, but she pretended to be shy and played with Long Juxue. If she married Crown Prince Yichang, he would be the emperor of the Black Moon Empire and she would be the empress. What about him? He would only be the state preceptor. No matter how high his position was, he would still be under the emperor and serve the emperor. He would only be a high-level servant. Cough cough. "Miss Long, I'm very good at joking." Crown Prince Yichang coughed softly and looked at Lin Dai calmly. He said with a smile, "However, a talented and beautiful girl like Miss Lin Dai is like a rare treasure. Who doesn't admire, love and want to own her?" "Crown Prince Yichang, you think too highly of me. I'm just the daughter of a marquis. My cultivation has just entered the nascent soul stage and I'm just an ordinary inner disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect. I'm not even an elite disciple." Lin Dai seemed to be humble, but she was actually trying to show off. At this moment she was so happy that her heart was trembling. It seemed that Crown Prince Yichang was really interested in her. If she could get what she wanted, she would be able to hold her head high in front of Jiang Xiqing and suppress him. He was not a good match at all. No matter how capable he was still a widower with a 7 or 8-year-old child. It was simply disgusting. Once she regretted missing out on Jiang Tian. The self-doubt and regret caused by missing out on Jiang Tian shrouded her heart like layers of dense clouds, making her feel depressed all day long. But now her mood was extremely bright, as if the clouds had parted to see the moon. At this moment Crown Prince Yichang felt that the time was right, so he changed the topic and asked with a smile, "I've heard that the imperial preceptor has always acted naturally and naturally. He doesn't like complicated formalities. Today he actually held a big banquet and called for a housewarming banquet. This is really unusual." He spoke with a smile and his beautiful eyes were clear as if he had the power to steal one's soul. "Dai, the imperial preceptor used to be your family's guest servant, so he shouldn't hide anything from you. What was his true purpose? Can you tell me a thing or two to satisfy my curiosity?" Lin Dai hesitated slightly, looking embarrassed. After all, Lin Hanqing, Fang Jinlong, and the others had warned her more than once not to reveal any information about this. If this matter were to spread out and allow the feudal lords to make preparations, Jiang Tian would very likely fall into a situation where he would be attacked from both sides. Dukes weren't scary, but they were often connected to secluded sections. They would even attract many saint-level experts to besiege Jiang Tian. "Little sister Dai, Crown Prince Yichang treats you as his confidant and even has deep feelings for you. How can you hide anything from me? Won't you make Crown Prince Yichang disappointed?" At this time Long Juxue suddenly laughed, looking sad for his misfortune and angry for his failure to fight. Hearing this, seeing that Crown Prince Yichang's smile was really cold, Lin Dai's heart couldn't help but tighten. She was afraid that Crown Prince Yichang would be unhappy, so she stammered, "This matter is of great importance. If my father knows that I leaked the information, he will definitely punish me severely. Moreover, this concerns the life of Saint Xiqing, so he will also be angry." Long Juxue spoke eloquently. this place has already been set up with an extremely strong restriction. If you don't say anything and I don't say anything, who would know that you leaked the information? Besides, even if Saint Xiqing knew about it, so what? Can he really do anything to you? As the old saying goes, even if a tree is 1,000 feet tall, it can't forget its roots. The imperial preceptor is indeed amazing, shocking the ages and suppressing the empire. But after all, he started in your Lin family. Without your Lin family taking him in, would he be able to rise to his current status? Long Juxue was very clear that Lin Dyer had always thought highly of herself and looked down on Jiang Tian. These words also touched Lin Dyer's heart, making her feel as if she was listening to heavenly music, very pleasing to the ear. Lin Dyer thought about it and agreed. Therefore, she gritted her teeth and said in a deep voice, "The imperial preceptor's real intention is to abolish the feudal system at the housewarming banquet and implement the county system. The titles will no longer be hereditary, and all will be civil officials and military generals. The imperial court will confer titles through the hidden dragon trials and other methods." Long Jushue's face changed greatly when she heard this. Crown Prince Yechong also narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a look of disbelief. After a moment, Long Juxue suddenly slammed the table and said angrily, "This Saint Xiqing is too much. You should know that he only got to where he is today with the support of the Lin family. The Lin family is a feudal vassal. If the feudal system is abolished, won't the Lin family bear the brunt and suffer the most? How can he be a traitor and help outsiders? How can he ignore the life and death of the Lin family? Besides, to be fair, if the feudal vassals didn't follow the great ancestor Emperor Dongfang Run to open up new territories and fight bloody battles, would the Dongfang imperial family have today's world? Would they be able to sit on the throne? Didn't the feudal vassals quell the rebellions and demonic beasts in various places? Now that the empire is safe, the Dongfang imperial family has forgotten their roots and wants to get rid of the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. Long Jushue's face was full of disdain, occupying the moral high ground. When the birds are gone, the bow is put away. When the cunning rabbit is gone, the hound is cooked. The Dongfang imperial family has always been harsh and ruthless. Crown Prince Yechong sipped his tea gently with a complex temperament. He was extraordinarily handsome and elegant, with a touch of quickness, making people feel like they were bathed in the spring breeze. He smiled and said, "I have heard that the Purple Marquis repeatedly bullied the Lin family, but the Dongfang imperial family also turned a blind eye to it and didn't make decisions for the Lin family. The Black Moon Empire was also a feudal system, but the imperial family was strong and the feudal vassals were loyal and did not dare to rebel or violate the imperial order to privately disturb other feudal vassals. The feudal vassals of the empire maintained an orderly and benign competition." These words touched the bottom of Lin Dyer's heart. She also nodded in agreement and said, "I think so too. However, my father and Uncle Nan and Uncle Gongfang were both persuaded by the big black dog under the state preceptor. They believe that abolishing the feudal system and implementing the county system is an unstoppable historical trend. We should go with the trend and even add fuel to the fire." "Haha, an unstoppable historical trend?" Crown Prince Yechong chuckled with a faint sneer at the corner of his mouth and said, "I'm afraid Dongfang Jia also thought so at that time. In the end, why did the feudal vassals rebel and drive him off the throne? It can be said that the most important thing for a country is unity and harmony, not internal strife and not creating contradictions. When contradictions arise, the empire will inevitably be in chaos. As a result, the national strength will be damaged and weakened, and the empire will become a meal on the plate of others." Lin Dyer agreed with Crown Prince Yechong's words. She only felt that the strings in her heart seemed to be plucked, and she was agitated. After the death of Dongfang Jia, the empire was indeed greatly weakened. The flames of war rose everywhere, and the neighboring countries scrambled to send troops to encroach on the empire's land. During that 100 years, the empire was in endless war outside, and hundreds of millions of cultivators and mortals died. Blood flowed like rivers and corpses were everywhere. 1/10 of the empire's territory was lost. Lin Dyer had always been disgusted and repulsed by Jiang Tian's reform, but it was just instinctive. Crown Prince Yechong's words instantly raised her cognitive level, forming a theoretical and factual basis, and also made her more determined. Chapter 1991. It's just that Dongfeng Jia didn't have the strength of State Preceptor Xiqing back then. Lin Dai frowned in thought. All the dukes think that State Preceptor Xiqing is a sacred-grade nascent soul cultivator and her strength is comparable to that of a soul formation cultivator. Besides, this is the State Preceptor's residence. He must have set up many restrictive spells and arrays, so he has the home advantage. There are also many masters of the royal family supporting him. I think he will be able to kill anyone who opposes him. He should be able to bring about this great change. She was also skeptical. This was all according to Fang Jinlong and Lin Hanqing's analysis. Lin Dai was almost convinced by them. But did you see? How many masters of the sects are here this time? Crown Prince Yachong picked up a crystal grape with his slender fingers and threw it into his mouth. He chewed slowly and said calmly, "Do you really think these people are here to congratulate us on our move? Then you're thinking too simply. This time there is a void returned saint and 4 sages to be. You mean these people are actually here to support those dukes in case of an accident?" Lin Dai stood up in shock and her face turned pale. Suddenly, she felt that the lively and festive atmosphere of the Bird River Mansion and even the entire imperial city had suddenly become gloomy and murderous, which made her heart palpitate. Once Jiang Xiqing announces the decision to deprive him of his title, they will immediately attack him. Lin Dai's voice was trembling. Her eyes were hollow and she was in a daze. This time there is a void returned saint and 4 sages to be. They are all from the unparalleled divine sects and have a very strong foundation. How can he resist them? Lin Dai had no confidence in Jiang Tian. She was completely desperate. Jiang Tian might be strong, but he was alone after all. He could fight alone, but he couldn't win against so many people. Besides, they were from the unparalleled divine sects and had a very strong foundation. They could use supreme divine weapons to suppress others. All of this was different from what her father and Uncle Fang had imagined. The State Preceptor thought that he was the mantis stalking the cicada, but in fact there was an oriole behind. He thought that he had set up a world-shaking killing trap and treated the dukes as prey, but an even bigger killing trap had already been formed and he was the real prey. Jiang Xiqing doesn't know what's good for her. She wants to die, then let her die. But no matter what, I will not allow Jiang Xiqing to drag the Lin family into the abyss. Lin Dai's face revealed an incomparably resolute expression. The next afternoon Jiang Tian arrived at the Misty Peak. Only then did he realize that in the desolate land of the extreme north, people were not prosperous and cultivation was not flourishing. Even the competition between the second and third-rate sects like the Snowdance sect was very eye-catching. In fact, only 200 to 300 people were allowed to watch. More than 100 of them had already been invited by the north and south sects of the sect. The anonymous invitations were left for the outside world and there were only a few hundred of them. But these days, there were already tens of thousands of Jianghu warriors and cultivators gathered at the Misty Peak. At the foot of the mountain and on the mountainside, there was a sea of people everywhere. Tens of thousands of people competing for 100 or so anonymous invitations could be said to be 1 in 100. It was even more strict and difficult. I offer 1,000,000 crystal stones. Who will give me a place? Someone bid. Forget it, brother. Don't bid. Someone just bid 5 million low-grade crystal stones and didn't buy a single invitation. Someone poured cold water on them. I'm a golden core cultivator. Don't I have the right to watch the competition? Sorry, only those above the nascent soul stage can enter. In front of the mountain gate, there were disciples of the Snowdance sect who maintained order and stopped everyone. Brother, I'm from the Fuzhou Trading Company. I have a good relationship with Zheng Biao of your South sect. Can you make an exception and let me in? Who is Zheng Biao? I don't know him. We only recognize the relationship between the elders and the Grand Elder. Hearing these conversations, Kong Qing kept sighing in his heart. Bai Yulong had sold the invitations cheaply before. The officialdom in front of the mountain gate could be said to be bustling. Everyone said that in order to get a place to watch the competition, they had broken their heads. A place was hard to get. Of course, this was not difficult for Jiang Tian. After all, he had now transformed into the appearance of Bai Yulong, the son of the city lord of Boulder City. He had replaced the other party's identity and even got the other party's equipment. To the ordinary people or even to the cultivators at the bottom, the snow dance sect was of course an unattainable existence. But in fact it was only a second or third-rate sect. It was comparable to the strength of Boulder City, or even slightly weaker. For example, if there was a demon invasion, they would often ask for help from Boulder City. What's more, the city lord of Boulder City was a clansman of Duke Bai Xianlin of the northern frontier. They could not afford to offend him. Therefore, when the flying boat embroidered with a large Bai character fluttered in the wind and landed on the square of the mountain gate. It's Bai Yulong, the son of the city lord of Boulder City. Get out of the way. This is a bully. Immediately an uproar sounded. Everyone was like birds startled by the twang of a bow and retreated. Master Bai, you're here. Madame Hu Zhu has been talking about you these past few days. Several female disciples of the snow dance sect also hurriedly came up to greet him. Their words were humble and their smiles were warm, treating him as a guest of honor. Someone led him to the headquarters of the sect and prepared a good guest room. From the beginning to the end, Bai Yulong did not say a word, his expression cold. This caused the female disciples to be suspicious. If it was in the past, he would always tease them frivolously and take advantage of them with words. Today, why did he change his temperament? In fact, Jiang Tian's mood was detached from the mortal world. He was as sacred as an immortal Buddha. He did not smile and was as cold and ruthless as the eternal great Tao. It was really difficult for him to play the role of Bai Yulong. Fortunately, these female disciples were very afraid that Bai Yulong would take advantage of them. They were too happy to think about it. After letting him into the room, they left as if they were running away. This was a suite. The inside was for the master's daily life. The outside was for servants and attendants to take care of each other. The area was vast and the furnishings were elegant. There was a cold plum tree in a floor-to-ceiling vase. The withered branches were like dragons flowing out from the side. The pink and white plum blossoms were shining with crystal light, fragrant and dense. It seems that sometimes it's not bad to be a villain so that others don't hate to approach. Could this be the reason for my existence? He walked into the private room and sat cross-legged on the bed. Jiang Tian had already activated the art of deception and concealment, firmly suppressing his cultivation and aura to the golden elixir realm. However, there was still a kind of profound and otherworldly aura that made people feel that they could not see through him. Is he a cat demon? But he doesn't look like one. Rumor has it that even if demons cultivate into human form, they still have a residual nature, ferocious and cunning. Isn't the personality of a cat high and mighty, proud and indifferent? He gives me this feeling too. No, he is not pretending to be high and mighty. He has the strength to give us the psychological pressure of looking up to him. Next to him, Kong Qing and Lu Manhen were full of doubts. They did not understand the situation and whispered to each other. But they did not dare to ask. They carefully poured a cup of tea and placed it on the tea table next to Jiang Tian. Then they left silently. Chapter 1992. As night fell, the sect's north and south competition was about to begin. The sect also held a grand welcome banquet and sent disciples to invite Jiang Tian to attend. Jiang Tian naturally declined politely and asked the odd-job disciple to send food over. After the banquet, the north and south competition finally began amidst the anticipation of everyone. Jiang Tian brought 2 attendants, and was led into the martial arts practice field by someone. Moreover, their position was excellent. They were actually in the second row, second only to the nascent soul elders and grand elders in the first row. Even the 2 attendants were pressed in the third row behind him. Yes, there's even a semi-god realm expert. Although he has just reached the first level of the semi-god realm and his level is very low. However, this snowdance sect was born in a desolate place after all. It's quite rare. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and his thoughts moved slightly. Very quickly, 2 groups of people walked in from both sides of the entrance. On one side was the North sect. They were all women. They were dressed in standard robes that were as white as snow. The headdresses on their heads were all in the shape of snowflakes. They were crystal clear and pure. On the other side was the South sect. They were all men. They were dressed in ice blue Daoist robes. Their hair was tied into a bun and inserted with an ice jade hairpin. The sect master of the South sect was called Yuqishui. He was about 40 years old and had a black beard. Coupled with his thin face, he looked quite sage-like. As for the female sect master of the North sect, everyone called her Madame Hu Zhu. From her title, one could tell that she was a young woman. Her lifespan was probably not small. However, she still looked like she was in her 20s. She had a pair of phoenix eyes. As her name suggested, she was round and beautiful. Jiang Tian's strength was similar to his original body. Naturally, he was much stronger than everyone present. Therefore, his divine sense was also released silently. No one noticed it at all. He quickly determined the cultivation of the two people. Yuqi was at the peak of the nascent soul stage and could be said to be half a step into the semi-god realm. Madame Hu Zhu was at the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. However, the grade of her nascent soul was extremely high. It was the 9th grade. Junior sister Hu Zhu, we haven't seen each other for 10 years. You're still as elegant as ever. Yuqi flew up to the stage looking down at Madame Hu Zhu from above. He was the first to speak and chuckled. My sect will definitely succeed in this North-South Grand competition and obtain the rights to the sect's foundation. Madame Hu Zhu raised her eyebrows and said in a clear voice. She was like a rose with thorns, adding a bit of charm to her. She had the aura of a domineering elder sister. Let's have a showdown then. Yuqi smiled confidently. According to the rules of the past, the northern and southern sects would each send out 5 disciples to compete in a best-of-5 format. The winner of all 3 matches would be considered the winner and would obtain the right to live in the sect's encampment. The loser would have to give up the right to live in the sect's encampment until 10 years later, when a new round of the competition would begin. When the young disciples from both sides walked onto the stage, the entire audience erupted into cheers. Most of them were at the Golden Core realm. In the eyes of the world, they were already geniuses. How could the people in the audience not be excited? Kong Qing in particular clapped so hard that his palms turned red. To him, a competition between disciples with such cultivation was a rare sight. It was an eye-opener for him. Jiang Tian's eyes were calm and indifferent. He didn't have any interest in the competition in front of him. When everyone's attention was focused on these young men and women, Jiang Tian quietly extended his divine senses and covered the surrounding guests. Yang Dingtian would appear, but he would have to conceal his identity and wouldn't appear in public. He might very well disguise himself as a guest and take advantage of the situation. The Thunder Yang sect was one of the top 10 sects in the continent. It was a dignified divine sect, a reputable righteous sect. It was like a pillar that supported the continent. As the Zongzi of the Thunder Yang sect, Yang Dingtian's external image was that of a virtuous and talented youth. How could he expose the matter of plucking women? How could his identity as a rapist be exposed? This was a competition between the most outstanding young disciples of the Snowdance sect. The spectating heroes were mostly the aristocratic clans and wealthy clans of the Northern Territory. Naturally, they attached great importance to the situation of the great sect in the territory. Furthermore, the Northern sect had women with both beauty and skill. The Southern sect's male cultivators were also very outstanding. Many of them had the thought of choosing a suitable Dao companion for their unmarried disciples. The first 2 matches ended quickly. The Southern sect and Northern sect had each won a match. As for me, Jiang Tian, I have also ended my spiritual sense scanning. But the result was that he didn't find anything. Most of the people below the stage were at the nascent soul realm or golden core realm. Just based on their cultivation, they could be eliminated as a suspect. Of course, Yang Dingtian was also able to suppress his cultivation and hide it from most people. But it was impossible to hide from Jiang Tian's divine senses. There was only one soul transformation realm expert, and he was the supreme elder of the Snowdance sect. But he was too old and had 1 foot in the grave. Thus he could be eliminated. Jiang Tian didn't feel at ease, so he carefully searched again. However, the result was still the same. Among these spectators, there was absolutely no one who could possibly be the Lotus Collector Yang Dingtian. They were all watching the competition with rapt attention. Sometimes they would shout excitedly and sometimes they would sigh. They were true spectators. Could it be that our great case arts deduction would be wrong? At this moment, Jiang Tian had doubts in his heart. He was doubting his own judgment. But soon enough he shook his head. Following the increase in Jiang Tian's cultivation, he was getting closer to the great Tao of heaven and earth. His perception of the changes in all living things and the changes in worldly affairs were getting sharper. He had a faint tendency of using his heart to replace the heaven's heart. It was as though heaven and earth could sense it. Naturally, Everything that happened in the human world would be clearly understood by heaven and earth. The accuracy of the great case arts deduction was also getting higher. It was able to find the pattern from the coincidence in the torrent of time and deduce the inevitable. It was just like how the splashes of water were ever-changing, but the river course was hard to change. It would ultimately flow towards a fixed destination. In other words, Jiang Tian was able to confirm that Yang Dingtian was already at the scene. There were no less than 300 to 400 spectators. In addition, there were some aristocratic descendants like Bai Yujing and influential figures like the wealthy merchants who had brought along their attendants and guards. It had caused the number of spectators to rapidly swell to more than 1,000 people. Among them, which one was Yang Dingtian? Jiang Tian even activated my purple lightning pupils, which were like glass lamps that illuminated the myriad of worlds. He could clearly see their corporeal bodies, dantians, spirit embryos, divine treasures, and even their souls. He could feel their vital qi laws and great Tao fluctuations. In the end, he still didn't find anything. This is impossible. My original body has been tainted by the mortal world and has experienced the vicissitudes of life. I have a clear understanding of worldly affairs. I have fallen into sin. If I don't go mad, I won't survive. I have imitated Yang Dingtian's evil heart and actions. How could the result of our 3 clones deduction be wrong? While Jiang Tian was frowning and pondering, 4 matches had already taken place on the stage. However, each side had won 2 matches and ended in a draw. The final match would determine the victory of the North and South sects. This time, everyone's heart was in suspense. Many of them revealed a tense and grave expression. They clenched their fists tightly and leaned forward. They didn't have the slightest bit of distraction as they looked at the stage. Yuzhu, bring out your best state and go all out. The victory or defeat will be decided in this match. At this moment, Madame Huzhu's face was filled with expectation as she looked at a female disciple behind her. This woman looked like she was only 16 or 17 years old. Her facial features were delicate. Her fair and clear face revealed a hint of immaturity. Her pair of big black eyes gave off a naive and unaffected feeling. She was just like the girl next door. It was just that her figure had already developed extremely well. Her waist was slender, but her chest was tall and lofty. Chapter 1993. Yes, master. The female disciple called Yuzhu had black hair like a waterfall. When she heard this, her face became solemn and her beautiful eyes revealed a bit of nervousness. Then she took a deep breath and walked to the center of the stage with a pair of long and slender legs. North sect disciple Wen Yuzhu, please enlighten me. She cupped her fists seriously, but her voice was like a mosquito's buzzing with shyness. Before she finished speaking, her face had already turned red to the roots of her ears. I heard that Senior Huzhu has taken in a female disciple with an extraordinary constitution. She must be Sister Yuzhu. I am the head disciple of the South sect, Zhao Bushuan. I am willing to exchange pointers with junior sister. A male disciple also walked to the center of the stage with a majestic gait. His figure was tall and imposing and his speech and actions were free and easy. His eyes were affectionate and romantic as if he could speak. What surprised me, Jiang Tian, was that this kid was actually at the 3rd level of the nascent soul realm. Nascent soul realm, even among the heirs of the dukes, was considered a prodigy. And they still occupied a huge amount of cultivation resources. After all, the Snowdance sect was a 3rd-rate sect in the empire. How could the resources they had be 1/10 of the intermediate dukes? It was very shabby. Therefore, in the small Snowdance sect, there was actually a very young 3rd-level nascent soul realm disciple. This was of course very shocking. As Zhao Bushuan operated his cultivation method, he spread out the 3rd-level nascent soul realm's true essence and laws that were as vast as the sea and as heavy as a mountain. Everyone present also let out exclamations of surprise and admiration. Madame Huzhu's expression suddenly became ugly. She had put her proud disciple Yuzhu at the end and hid her strength in order to catch her opponent off guard. After this battle, she would amaze the world. She did not expect that Yu Qishui would be so cunning and sinister. He also had a trick up his sleeve. These 2 disciples who were not weak carried out the final battle. Of course, the entire competition instantly entered the final climax. It was dangerous but brilliant. Even though Wen Yuzhu seemed to be delicate, timid, and extremely weak, once she entered into a state of battle, her entire body actually instantly became fierce. and she was like a peerless treasured sword that revealed its edge. During the fight, every move was executed with a sense of propriety. Both offense and defense were present, and they had the bearing of a great master. However, Zhao Buxuan was clearly a figure that the southern sect had carefully nurtured. Not only was his strength a level higher than Wen Yuzhu's, but his combat experience was also extremely rich. The rhythm of the entire battle was under his control. Moreover, looking at his relaxed state, it was obvious that he had not used his full strength yet. Jiang Tian's expression was cold, but he instantly judged that Wen Yuzhu was definitely not his match. The victory of this battle, as well as the final victory, still belonged to the southern sect. True enough. After just a few breaths, Zhao Buxuan opened his hand and spread out a forbidden area. The restrictive power of the forbidden zone was very strong. Not only did it instantly restrict Wen Yuzhu's dermic powers, but it also pulled her towards itself. Ah! Wen Yuzhu's pretty face turned pale as she panicked. "Junior sister, be careful." Zhao Buxuan pretended to be surprised, but he stretched out his arms and hugged the woman in his arms, then turned around and landed on the ground. He let go of the woman, but deliberately put his finger to his nose and sniffed it intoxicatedly. He praised, "Junior sister Yuzhu, you're like soft jade, warm and fragrant." Praise, praise. When Yuzhu was so angry that her delicate body trembled slightly, but she was extremely embarrassed. For a moment she was in a dilemma and tears of grievance welled up in her eyes. But, with a crisp sound, Madame Huzhu slammed the table, stood up and shouted, "Yu Qishui, you're usually mature and steady. How did you teach such a frivolous disciple?" Yu Qishui stroked the 3 strands of long beard on his chest and laughed. "Junior sister Huzhu, young people are just joking. It's not a big deal. Why are you so angry?" Humph. Madame Huzhu was so angry that her delicate body trembled slightly, and her full chest rose and fell violently. She had worked hard for 10 years and in the end she failed at the last step. The depression and frustration in her heart could be imagined. Zhao Buxuan hurriedly cupped his hands towards Wen Yuzhu and said, "Junior sister, this foolish brother didn't mean to be rude. It's just that I saw how cute you are and wanted to get close to you, so I played a joke on you." Wen Yuzhu ignored him and walked to her master in a daze. She bowed her head in shame and said, "This disciple is incompetent and has disgraced the sect. Please punish me, master." As soon as she finished speaking, sparkling and translucent tears also rolled down her cheeks. It made many of the onlookers feel compassion. What's there to punish? What's there to cry about? Madame Huzhu showed her resolute side and shouted in a deep voice, "You've tried your best, but you're still not as good as others. What's wrong with that? You just have to continue to work hard in the future. The road of cultivation is long and I will explore it from top to bottom. I won't be arrogant and I won't be discouraged." "Yes, master, I will remember." When Yuzhu wiped away her tears and seemed to have regained her courage. On the other hand, those prodigal sons whose cultivation is just a little higher, are arrogant and arrogant. They are frivolous and unrestrained and they forget the rules of their ancestors. They won't go far. Sooner or later they will lose their reputation. Let's go. Madame Huzhu hid a needle in the silk floss. She glared at Zhao Buxuan, flicked her sleeves and was about to leave with her disciple. However, at this time what was unexpected was that as the winner Yu Qishui did not add insult to injury. Instead he spoke to persuade her to stay. "Junior sister Huzhu, please wait. There can't be 2 snow dance sects in one stroke. Although you and I are divided into 2 sects, it's actually just fate playing tricks on us. The grudges left behind by our predecessors. Since I took charge of the headquarters, I have always had a great wish. I hope that one day the 2 sects of the North and South can merge and return to their former glory. I hope that our Snowdance sect will become a first-rate sect in the Eastern Empire and even the entire continent." Humph. Although I, Huzhu, am a woman, I'm not the kind of person who wags her tail and begs for pity. You want me to come back and be your lackey? No way. Madame Huzhu raised her chin slightly and her attitude was very tough. The implication was that she would take back the headquarters of the sect with her own ability. She would not eat the food that was given to her by others. "Junior sister, some time ago I was comprehending the Tao at the back of the mountain, but I found an ancient secret realm. There were many cultivation methods of ice and snow in it. I suspect that it should be the legacy of the founder of the sect. I'm so stupid that I can't do it alone. I want to invite junior sister to come back and study it together. Yu Qishui was not offended. His attitude was modest and warm and his posture was very low. Ancient secret realm, legacy of the founder of the sect? Madame Huju's expression changed slightly. Junior sister, red flowers, green leaves and white lotus roots were originally one family. Our north and south sects are actually of the same origin. How can such a big matter be divided between you and me? Do you want to see me ask for the help of experts from other sects and let outsiders take advantage of it? If you and I can promote the merger of the two sects, we will be great contributors to the sect in the future. Yu Qishui's tone was very sincere. At this time the semi-god realm grand elder in the front row also stood up and sighed. Yes, Huju, what Yu Qishui said makes sense. The grudges of the seniors should go with the wind. As latecomers you should open up the future, not cling to the remnants. The key is that the general trend of the world, if we are united we will live, if we are divided we will die. He was originally Huju's martial uncle, but at this moment in order to persuade Madame Huju he bowed deeply and begged. At this moment, Madame Huju could not help but hesitate. Chapter 1994. The split between the north and south sects occurred in the second generation of the sect. At that time, a young man and woman were the direct disciples of the sect's founder. They were childhood sweethearts and had a deep relationship. When they grew up they had their first awakening of love and became a pair of lovers just like an immortal couple. However, this female cultivator was a jealous lover. As long as the male cultivator had any contact with other female cultivators, she would fly into a rage and even kill the female cultivator. When the sect's founder was still alive, there was someone to suppress her. When the sect's founder passed away, there was no one to suppress her. This female cultivator became even more aggressive. As time went by, the conflict between the man and woman deepened and finally became irreconcilable. They went against the teachings of their ancestors and took away the male and female cultivators respectively, splitting into the north and south sects. The two sides started a chaotic battle for the position of sect leader. Because there were too many deaths and injuries, the rule of 3 out of 5 was set in this decade's competition. The two fought for their entire lives, each with victory and defeat. However, until the day they passed away they still hated each other and set the rule of having a competition every 10 years. As long as the sect was not destroyed, the competition would not end. However, when it came to juniors like Madame Huju and Yu Qishui, they had already completely followed the teachings of their ancestors. Perhaps they had a competitive heart, but there wasn't the slightest bit of deep hatred. Now Yu Qishui's attitude was extremely humble. Moreover, every word he said was for the sake of reviving the sect. In addition, with the advice of the seniors, Madame Huju was very tempted. Junior sister, there are many eyes and ears here. Why don't you and I go to the sect's secret room to discuss first? I have 2 sets of secret manuals from the legacy and I have some questions. I hope you can enlighten me. Madame Huju hesitated for a moment when she heard these words. Finally, she nodded her head and said, Yu Qishui, if you truly want to revitalize the sect, I, Madame Huju, am not an unreasonable person. Yu Qishui was overjoyed and hurriedly said, Junior sister is magnanimous. Women are not inferior to men. It is our sect's fortune. Please. He immediately ordered Zhao Buxuan, you entertain the guests. I have something to discuss with your martial uncle. Yes. Yu Qishui excused himself from the guests and rose into the air with Madame Huju, flying towards the depths of the sect. Zhao Buxuan led the audience to several halls in the sect, saying that he would hold a banquet there to entertain everyone. Sitting in a large hall, Jiang Tian ate the food as if he was chewing on wax. He was baffled by what was going on. The tournament had ended just like that. However, the lotus collector Yang Dingtian actually didn't have any traces or clues. This was poles apart from his expectations. What's the problem? Did I miss any details? Did I just come here for nothing? Jiang Tian was very unwilling to admit defeat. However, at this time, a handyman disciple appeared at the entrance of the hall. He took out a token branded with Huju's divine soul imprint and said to Wen Yuzhu and the other female disciples of the North faction, Junior sisters, Senior Huju has ordered us to invite you to pay respects to the founder. When Yuzhu and the others heard that their master was famous and that they were going to pay respects to the founder, naturally they wouldn't refuse and followed the disciple. However, looking at this handyman disciple, Jiang Tian's heart was moved. He felt that this disciple was familiar. Jiang Tian quickly made a judgment. He raised his wine cup and walked to Zhao Buxuan. He smiled. Brother Zhao, a toast to you. Young Master Bai, nice to meet you. Zhao Buxuan was very enthusiastic and drank the wine. After all, Jiang Tian was impersonating Bai Yujing, the clansman of the North Frontier Duke, the son of the giant stone city lord. Who is the disciple that sent the message? Jiang Tian asked. A handyman disciple. I don't remember his name. Zhao Buxuan asked. Why? Are you familiar with him? Is this person responsible for transmitting master's messages in the past? Jiang Tian will ask again. How is he qualified? Only elite disciples are qualified. Handyman disciples don't have the qualifications to directly contact master. I don't know why he is so lucky today. Zhao Buxuan rattled on and on, his words were very puzzled. I see. I have a little too much. I can't drink anymore. Jiang Tian laughed and immediately concluded that there was something wrong with this disciple. He had never seen this person before, but he had a sense of familiarity. Jiang Tian quickly led Kong Qing and the other two followers out of the hall. His divine sense spread out mightily and chased after the handyman disciple Wen Yuzhu and the others. However, to Jiang Tian's surprise, the disciple who sent the message and Wen Yuzhu had all disappeared. Even the law fluctuations left behind by those female disciples had disappeared. It's too strange. Jiang Tian's gaze was cold and solemn. The speed at which his divine sense spread out was definitely far beyond the speed of the handyman, Wen Yuzhu and the others. But now they had actually dodged it. Yu Qishui. To be precise, that handyman's aura is very similar to Yu Qishui. This kind of aura is the extension of essence qi and law. Could it be that there is a problem with Yu Qishui? I missed something. Jiang Tian sorted out the information in his mind and suddenly his heart trembled. Jiang Tian thought to this point and immediately urged his divine sense to the extreme. It was like a surging river raging wildly, like mercury flowing down the ground, pervasive. Found it. Very soon Jiang Tian's eyes lit up and he found a clue. Originally, with Jiang Tian's divine sense, the Snowdance Sect's array formation and restrictions appeared too low level. His divine sense seemed to enter the realm of nothingness and did not obtain the slightest obstruction. However, when his divine sense invaded a dense forest at the back of the mountain, it was clearly blocked. Very clearly, a Dao artifact level restriction array formation was set up here. Moreover, it was very exquisite, second only to the sacred weapon level. How could a third-rate sect like the Snowdance Sect afford to play with a Dao artifact level restriction array formation? Only soul transformation cultivators were able to control it, and only first-rate sects had it. What's more, this dense forest was a barren forest. It wasn't a garden, nor was it an important place. Even if the Snowdance Sect had a Dao artifact level restriction array, there must be something wrong with their brains to set it up here. This Lotus Harvester or Yang Dingtian was simply giving away 300 taels of silver here. Swish swish. Jiang Tian's figure flashed as he rolled up his sleeves and disappeared with his two followers. In the next moment he entered that dense forest and instantly passed through the restriction. However, these two followers were left outside the restriction. Within this restriction there was a small paradise, and it was actually a palace. The palace paradise wasn't big, but it had all kinds of arrangements. The most eye-catching thing was still a jade bed, and this jade bed presented a scene that would make one's ears turn red and one's heart beat faster. The northern sect's 6 most beautiful disciples were placed on both sides of Madame Hu Zhu. The 3 on the left were already like little lambs. Wen Yuzhu and the other 2 girls on the right. Although they still had places to cover, their clothes were half off and their shoulders were half exposed. All kinds of beautiful scenery were faintly discernible. At this moment, all the girls on the bed had revealed boundless horror as they looked at the odd job disciple standing at the head of the bed. Tiske, as expected, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. All the Snowdance Sect's northern sex ladies have been captured by this Songzi. This person's voice had a hint of wickedness, and his eyes were flickering with electric light. They were sometimes white blazing and sometimes deep blue. His scorching and greedy gaze swept across each of the beautiful bodies, and his throat was emitting a strange sound that was like a wild beast's roar and rolling thunder. Chapter 1995. Fortune. Violent. Thirsty. Cruel. Greedy. This person seemed to be full of evil thoughts, and after being stimulated by the women, it was like adding oil to the fire and became more vigorous. The women on the bed were all cultivators, and each of them had graceful figures and exquisite curves, which were incomparably beautiful. Especially Madame Huzhu, she was even more beautiful than the other women. If these female disciples were delicate buds that were about to bloom, then Madame Huzhu had already bloomed. She could even be said to have bathed in rain, dew and sunlight, and exuded an alluring mature fragrance. Should I eat the old one first or the young one first? The labor disciple rubbed his chin and chuckled strangely. In the end, his gaze descended onto Wen Yuzhu and said, "This little girl is refined, shy and timid. Her face turns red before she speaks, and her bearing is rather similar to Huang Ling. She wears the 1,000 transformation mask, he. As he spoke, he also took out a human skin mask from his storage ring. He waved his hand and it fell on Wen Yuzhu's face. Moreover, the mask immediately merged with her skin and it was impossible to see it. In an instant, Wen Yuzhu seemed to have become a replica of Huang Linger. Wen Yuzhu was also aware of the approaching danger. Her beautiful eyes were filled with boundless fear, and sparkling tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls from a broken necklace. Wonderful. When she cries, she looks even more like that little girl Huang Linger. The servant disciple took out a few more human skin masks and shook them out. Immediately, the other women, including Madame Huzhu, became Huang Linger. Wonderful, wonderful. Not only can I play with a Huang Linger, but I can also play with a fatter, thinner and more mature Huang Linger. In this world, who can be more talented than me in the way of seducing women? He clapped his hands and a crazy joy appeared on his face. As soon as he said this, Huang Linger. All the girls were trembling. This person turned out to be one of Huang Linger's admirers. Little girl, you're very arrogant. You're just a rogue cultivator from outside the Milky Way. I'm giving you a lot of face by inviting you to meet me. It's a gift. But you don't know what's good for you and have rejected me time and time again. Today I'm going to play with you. I'll fuck you in 18 different positions. The odd job disciple took off his clothes, revealing his jade-like muscles that were filled with explosive power. While shouting, he fiercely pounced on Wen Yuzhu. No. Wen Yuzhu let out a sorrowful cry, her eyes filled with despair. Right at this moment, swish, a sword light that was like a bolt of lightning suddenly lit up in the air and slashed at the neck of the servant disciple from an inconceivable angle. Who? That odd job disciple was at his most relaxed and excited moment, so he was naturally caught off guard and had no time to dodge. Fortunately, he was originally Yang Dingtian's transformation and possessed the soul transformation realm Cultivation. In a moment of desperation, Yang Dingtian waved his hands, and thunder and lightning were produced, forming a giant thunder shield. Swish. There was another sharp sound that caused one's teeth to ache. The sword light slashed through the giant thunder shield, but it didn't stop there and continued to slash forward. Fresh blood splattered in the air and it was actually lingering with thunder, lightning and fire. An arm fell on the ground, burning cracks on the jade ground. Ah! The odd job disciple was in pain and his eyes were about to split open. He gritted his teeth and his face was distorted. He couldn't maintain his disguise and had turned into another face. His entire body had also expanded and stretched rapidly, turning into a 2-meter-tall figure, which made him look even more formidable and extraordinary. Who is he? When Yuzhu and the others turned pale with fright as they muttered in disbelief. It's actually Yang Dingtian. Madame Huzhu cried out involuntarily. Yang Dingtian was the Zongzi of the Thunder Yang sect, and he usually presented himself as a young and handsome man. But who knew that he was actually the notorious lotus harvester behind the scenes? However, this wasn't the most inconceivable thing among all the strange things that happened tonight. Yang Dingtian was a dignified soul transformation expert. It could be said that there weren't many people in the entire giant stone city who could injure him, let alone this small snowdance sect. Who exactly was it? He was actually able to severely injure Yang Dingtian with a single attack. His cultivation was probably extraordinary and was above the soul transformation realm. Under everyone's astonished gaze, they saw the void ripple like water. In the blink of an eye, a young man who was dressed like a noble young master stepped out and landed on the ground. A hidden space. Isn't this the symbol of a soul transformation expert? It's actually Bai Yulong. How is this possible? Madame Hu Zhu and the others had an expression of disbelief, as though they had fallen into a dream. The North sect was a place where beauties gathered. Bai Yulong was also a lecherous wastrel. It would be weird if they didn't have any interactions. However, in their memories, this Bai Yulong was an ignorant and incompetent person who indulged in sensual pleasures and took pleasure in bullying men and women. As for cultivation, Bai Yulong was merely at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. Furthermore, his cultivation was forcefully produced by his clan using tiger and wolf elixirs. He didn't undergo any tempering and had an unstable foundation. How was it possible for him to have such tyrannical skills? Yang Dingtian asked with a gloomy expression. Who exactly are you? Don't pretend to be mysterious and hide. Reveal your true self. The person who is going to kill you, Bai Yulong. Jiang Tian waved his folding fan and smiled coldly. I have always had tender feelings for the fairer sex. Today I shall enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and be the hero who saves the beauty. Jiang Tian even intentionally cast a glance at Madame Hu Zhu and the others with a fawning smile. If I succeed in saving all my senior sisters, madam, you have to betroth one of them, no, at least two of them to me. It was in line with Bai Yulong's lecherous and distinguished persona. Jiang Tian had already laid down a second layer of restriction to deceive the heavens and earth. Theoretically, everything that happened here couldn't be seen by the Almighty of the Nine Heavens immortal world. But this wasn't enough. He still planned to erase all the women's memories after the deed was done. This way, even if the big shots noticed the abnormality and searched the women's memories, they wouldn't be able to find any relevant information. However, Jiang Tian was the future sign of Jiang Tian's true self. The goal he pursued was as sacred as the immortals and Buddhas, just and honorable. It was also as ruthless and cold as the great Tao, eternally immovable. His actions were even more meticulous and cautious than Jiang Tian's true self. It could be said that he was watertight. Erasing their memories wasn't enough. He had to deepen the impression that the one who saved them was Bai Yulong. If the big shots of the Nine Heavens immortal world were to recover their memory fragments, they wouldn't be able to find any clues. It's really you? Bai Yulong, I've heard of you. You're just a hedonistic young master who doesn't even know how to fart. Jiang Tian's mystic art of deceiving heaven and earth was so powerful that Yang Dingtian believed that this person in front of him was Bai Yulong. Of course, it wasn't impossible to explain why Jiang Tian attacked him. Perhaps it was a one-time use Dao artifact class artifact. After attacking him, it had exhausted its magic power and exploded. It wasn't Jiang Tian's own strength. Hiding in the void could also be done with Dao artifacts. Yang Dingtian's face was filled with disdain as he snorted. You want to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and save the damsel in distress? You need to have the ability to do so. What makes you think you can do so? I have met at least 800 fools like you, if not 1,000. Among them there was no lack of nascent soul experts. But what happened in the end? All of them were sleeping soundly underground. I don't mind adding another one to the list today. What makes me think I can do so? Just because I am the son of the giant stone city's city lord. Just because I am a clansman of the northern frontier duke. Jiang Tian's face was filled with arrogance. His eyes were filled with disdain. His words were righteous and his posture was domineering. It was in line with Bai Yulong's reckless and arrogant character. Under the worried eyes of the women, he swayed his folding fan and took a step forward. Furthermore, I am very close with a few good sisters from the northern sect. You bullied my good friends in my clan's territory. Tell me, do I have the qualifications to interfere in this matter? Chapter 1996. Beijiang's Duke. City Lord's son? Yang Dingtian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He felt that this was the biggest joke he had ever heard in his life. He was the Thunder Yang sect's Zhongzi, a soul transformation expert. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was on equal footing with Beijiang's Duke Bai Xianlin. But Bai Xianlin's junior, who was even a distant relative, actually bared his fangs and brandished his claws at him. This kid was simply crazy. What an impressive background. Simply frightening me to death. Yang Dingtan laughed while holding his stomach. What's the use of saying all this? You hurry up and call for help. You can't defeat him. When Yuzhu and the other girls cried out in alarm while their faces were filled with worry. Idiot. At this moment even Madame Hu Zhu was secretly depressed. She was at the nascent soul realm, a sect patriarch, and the giant stone city's city lord had to be courteous to her. But what about Yang Dingtian? He was a soul transformation expert, and she, who was at the peak stage of the nascent soul realm, couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. Furthermore, as the divine sex Zhongzi, his status was on par with the empire's crown prince or even higher. Why would he bother about her father, a mere city lord? Woman, shut up. As the city lord's son, I have the responsibility to protect the land. Since the lotus harvester appeared here, I naturally have to eliminate him. It is my duty. Jiang Tian scolded. Madame Huzhu was so angry that she nearly passed out. Good. I will send you to the afterlife. Yang Dingtian chuckled and took out a thunder blade that was condensed from lightning and slashed at Jiang Tian. On the other side, Imperial City. In the rear hall of the state preceptor's residence, Jiang Tian's original body sat upright on the bed of clouds. His eyes were slightly closed and he didn't move at all. If it weren't for his clothes fluttering in the wind, he would look like an unchanging statue. Fairy Qingju is just outside. Let me meet her. It has been a long time since we met and I miss her. Jiang Tian was pacing around the rear hall and was anxious like an ant on a hot pan while scratching his ears and cheeks. Don't you think you have caused enough trouble for me? Jiang Tian's true body was expressionless, but his tone was very helpless as he sighed and said, You should know that I am deeply in love with Qing'er. I would rather betray the common people than betray you. How can I have another woman? How can you tease her so casually? I'm not happy to hear you say that. One shouldn't be too hypocritical. You can't speak like Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian crossed his arms in his sleeves like a street ruffian, a lazy villager. He raised his eyebrows and squinted his eyes, his face full of disdain. If you don't have any feelings for Huang Linger with your heart of stone, why would you take the risk to save her? What does her life or death have to do with you? Sigh. In the end, I still owe her. We can't just ignore it. Jiang Tian sighed. Emotions were more complicated than the supreme Dharma and more profound than the endless universe. Even the Buddha and the Tao ancestor, the supreme almighty who could see through the world, distinguish right from wrong, and control the great Tao, could they say that they had seen through emotions? Of course, I have to make up for what I owe a woman. That's right. Jiang Tian seemed to have forgotten about Fairy Qingjue. He lay on the ground lazily and ate the spiritual fruits in big mouthfuls. The fruit juice flowed down the corner of his mouth, but he didn't care. He only said vaguely, but the best way to make up for it is not to save her. Or rather, not just to save her but to sleep with her. Jiang Tian's original self frowned. He suddenly gritted his teeth and laughed sinisterly. Do you think that I can't kill you when I'm not here? Among these 3 doppelgangers your strength is the weakest. Then beat me to death. Jiang Tian's original self lay on his back and said with a scoundrel face, If you kill me, you won't be able to transform into a mortal successfully, and your soul formation foundation won't be stable. The original self is a collection of evil thoughts. It's a part of your mortal bones. Jiang Tian's original self couldn't do anything. Suddenly his face froze. His eyes, which had been closed all this time, suddenly opened and said in a deep voice, The original self is starting to take action. The great reform on our side is about to begin. The bigger the commotion here, the more exquisite this book is, the more exciting the plot, and the more attention it will attract. Naturally, if Yang Dingtian is killed, it will be negligible. It will be like a piece of waste paper, and won't be noticed by that person in the sky. Jiang Tian's original self suddenly stood up and laughed sinisterly. Today I came here to kill. Finally, I can make a move to my heart's content. Soon enough, housekeeper Guochuandong received Jiang Tian's divine senses transmission. It informed the entire state preceptor's residence that the housewarming banquet had officially begun. When Jiang Tian's original self walked out of the rear palace hall and flew to the back garden where the banquet was held. Greetings to Lord State Preceptor. Congratulations to the saint for your happy housewarming. Grand plans for prosperity, auspicious clouds for riches and honor. A mountain doesn't have to be high to have an immortal. Water doesn't have to be deep to have a dragon. With the saint here immediately, the magnificent hall is filled with auspiciousness and merit. An auspicious aura, 10,000 miles of wind. Immediately, the northern frontier duke by Xianlin, the southern frontier duke Fong Jinlong, the eastern gorge duke, and the Western Ridge Duke led their descendants and rushed over to kowtow. The entire place was filled with praises and prayers, and everyone was fawning over him. Everyone is here. Jiang Tian's original self nodded slightly as if he was doubting and indifferent. He sized up everyone and wanted to see who would be the best target. Congratulations to Lord State Preceptor for your happy housewarming. Among the crowd, the Black Fox Marquis bowed deeply but didn't kowtow. He looked humble on the surface, but deep in his eyes, there was a trace of arrogance and disapproval. Among the marquises, he was ranked at the top and was slightly superior to the Zhenyun Marquis. His sister was one of the most favored concubines of the Emperor Eastern Lu. She had the dual identity of a marquis and a relative of the emperor. Her descendant Zhou Xian had been ruthlessly trampled on by Jiang Tian in the ancient medicine hall in Ice-Sealed City. He didn't have a good impression of Jiang Tian. Of course, he had also heard of Jiang Tian's name. However, Jiang Tian's aura was extremely dense and was tainted by worldly affairs. This made him wonder if Jiang Tian's strength was as powerful as the rumors said. Aha, aren't you going to kneel down? Although the Black Fox Marquis hid it well, he couldn't escape Jiang Tian's eyes. Suddenly, Jiang Tian shouted and slapped down. His action was as casual as swatting a fly. However, the Black Fox Marquis felt as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. He couldn't take it at all and knelt down. His entire body was pressed to the ground like a toad. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. If you don't follow the rules, die. Jiang Tian continued to press down on the Black Fox Marquis. The Black Fox Marquis was embedded into the ground. His bones made a strange sound that made one's teeth ache. It was as if he was going to die in the next moment. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Grand Tutor. The Black Fox Marquis screamed in fear. He felt that if he dared to refute, he would really be killed by the Grand Tutor. Wouldn't it be fine if you had knelt down earlier? Jiang Tian chuckled and revealed his snow-white teeth. However, in the eyes of the crowd, he looked like a prehistoric divine beast that had bared its fangs. They trembled in fear. Instantly, those who had only bowed and didn't kneel down also knelt down and lowered their arrogant heads. Everyone was kneeling on the ground. All the marquises in the world had submitted to him. Duke of the Beijiang, I present the 7-star purple cloud sword, a pinnacle offensive doctrine artifact, to the Grand Tutor. Duke of the South, I present the Cloud Dragon Protective Pearl, a pinnacle defensive doctrine artifact, to the Grand Tutor. Duke of the Eastern Gorge, I present 3 Third Origin Cleansing Pills, a sacred grade pill made by the ancient medicine hall. It can greatly increase the success rate of breaking through to the soul formation stage. Duke of the West Ridge, I present. After that, Jiang Tian sat upright on the master's seat on the high platform, and he started to receive numerous dukes that presented congratulatory gifts in a humble and fawning manner. Dahe, who was disguised as a child, also stood in front of Jiang Tian and inspected each and every one of them. Many of these artifacts were Dao artifacts, and some were even half-step sacred weapons. Other than that, there were countless spiritual herbs and immortal mushrooms, which could be used to make divine pills or even sacred pills. They knew that Jiang Tian was good at making divine pills, so they catered to his tastes. Some of the marquises even sent some puppet beasts, mechanical birds and other gadgets. Obviously, they knew that Jiang Tian had a daughter and wanted to please him. Good. Good. Jiang Tian accepted the gifts with a smile. Whenever he met someone he liked, he would grin from ear to ear. If you can't find a good gift, you can directly exchange it for superior grade crystals next time. When he saw someone who didn't like the gift, he directly scolded them. The way he ate was extremely ugly, but it gave people a feeling that he had no scruples and was domineering. Chapter 1998. I remember that in my last life, when we excavated the treasure left by the ancient Saint Jingjiu, the traps and forbidding formations were activated. At least 3 highly achieved swordsmen in the Huashan state died, and countless Yuanying practitioners who assisted them died. These people really thought it was a treasure. In fact, it was a trap fire pit. Many details appeared in Jiang Tian's mind, and he couldn't help but laugh secretly. But he didn't bother to remind Elder Yuehua. Jiang Tian was a collection of evil thoughts. They didn't have much of a relationship to begin with, so why remind him? Wasn't it better for him to watch the show from the side? Afterwards, Fairy Qingjue came up to congratulate him. Cultivationist Siqing, we haven't seen each other for a few months and I've missed you very much. Seeing you again today, you're still as charming as before, even better than before. Congratulations. Her beautiful eyes were beautiful and every frown and smile was graceful and beautiful. Her posture was elegant and her appearance was first class. In addition, her cultivation state was high and she had the bearing of a master. She was like a crane in a flock of chickens, making the women around her feel inferior and ashamed of their inferiority. Lin Dyer and the other female successors of the dukes, who thought highly of themselves compared to her, were like little chickens on the roadside meeting a phoenix. The difference was too great. Wow, I've heard that Fairy Qingjue is very proud and serious, like a goddess who doesn't eat the food of mortals. Seeing her today, I find that she likes to smile very much. She's very amiable, just like the girl next door. Like to smile? Why don't you try asking her to smile at you? That's when facing a saint. No matter what, her smile is so beautiful. Below the stage, the successors of the dukes were all discussing animatedly, like fangirls meeting their idol. Could even be said that those dukes and bigwigs were all amazed. Wow, Auntie, she's so beautiful, such a fairy. She's really like a woman from the immortal world of the 9 heavens. Even little Princess Dongfang Ying sighed at her own inferiority. Instead, her beautiful eyes were wide open and she looked quite fascinated. Humph! What a mortal! Beside her, eldest Princess Mou snorted with a cold and solemn expression, feeling very uncomfortable. Although I, Jiang Tian, am only a doppelganger of myself, representing the past of the mortal world and the accumulation of evil thoughts. However, when she saw Jiang Tian greedily conversing with Fairy Qingjue, she couldn't help but gnash her teeth in anger. She wished she could pin Jiang Tian down on the ground and give him a good beating. Auntie, didn't you have a very high opinion of Fairy Qingjue when you were evaluating the female cultivators on the continent? How did she suddenly turn into a vixen? Little Princess Dongfang Ying hugged Jiang Beibei and kept feeding her food as she asked with a puzzled expression. Hee hee. Eldest Princess Mou, you didn't know how to explain and could only sneer. Oh, I understand now. You're saying that she's a demonic cultivator with the bloodline of a fox demon, right? Dongfang Ying came to a sudden realization, her cute little face revealing a look of shock. Eldest Princess Mou was speechless. However, all of a sudden, Fairy Qingjue walked over gracefully and looked at Jiang Beibei with a face full of smiles. Little beauty, are you Jiang Beibei? Yeah. Auntie, you're so beautiful. Jiang Beibei said very obediently. Thank you. Your father and I are friends. I brought you a few toys. Fairy Qingjue took out a few very exquisite puppet Dharma artifacts and gave them to Jiang Beibei. Very quickly she became friends with her. This Fairy Qingjue is also good at coaxing children. I feel that Beibei isn't even close to me anymore. Dongfang Ying sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness, feeling wronged. Vixen. Eldest Princess Mou gnashed her teeth in hatred. Her eyes were red from jealousy, but there was nothing she could do. She had long known that during the battle at 100 Flowers Peak, Jiang Tian had provoked Fairy Qingjue and wantonly teased her. It was very obvious that Fairy Qingjue was deeply in love and had come to take the daughter route. Beibei, what's so fun about these puppets? Auntie will teach you how to practice the sword later, okay? Eldest Princess Mou was not someone who admitted defeat easily. She leaned forward and said with a smile. Fighting and killing is not good. Jiang Beibei smiled and said, however, you're right. These puppets are indeed a little childish. That's right. Eldest Princess Mou smiled proudly and said, Auntie will teach you some things that aren't childish later. But they're very cute. Also, these hair ornaments are also extremely beautiful. Jiang Beibei played with Fairy Qingjue again and directly ignored Eldest Princess Mou. The craftsmen in the palace made them even better. I can't coax children. On this point, Eldest Princess Mou sighed at her inferiority and was extremely depressed. She was busy with state affairs every day and she was careless and murderous. She could kill enemies but she really could not coax children. Walking behind them, Lin Dai, who saw this scene, felt especially upset. In the past she had treated Jiang Beibei as a burden and loathed her. But now Jiang Beibei was like a peerless pearl, doted on and surrounded by everyone. Even important figures like the eldest princess and Fairy Qingjue were fighting to play with her. Now she might not even have any chance to get close to Jiang Beibei. Finally, the Hall Master of the Ancient Medicine Hall's branch in Icebound City, Hall Master Xing, also came to congratulate on behalf of the Ancient Medicine Hall. Originally, Elder Gu and Sect Mistress Zhou Xian came to congratulate in person, but something big suddenly happened in the sect, so I came to represent them. If there's anything rude, please forgive me. Hall Master Xing's words were very polite, and his attitude was also very humble. Hall Master Xing played an important role in the cooperation with Jiang Tian back then, and now his status had also risen. He directly became the head Hall Master and could be on par with Elder Gu. His status was not low at all. It could even be said that even the king of a country had to be courteous to him. The key was that he represented the ancient medicine hall. That was the number one among the many sacred grounds. Even the ancient medicine hall wants to help him? At this moment Lin Dai, was a little doubtful. Perhaps Jiang Tian could succeed. Soon Crown Prince Yachong and the other empire representatives also came to congratulate. Seeing Crown Prince Yachong, Fong Jinlong and Lin Hanqing's faces showed some coldness. He was the prince of the Black Moon Empire. In history, the Black Moon Empire often fought with the Eastern Empire, and the southern border where they were located was the first place to bear the brunt. Their relatives and comrades had died in the hands of the Black Moon Empire. This time, a total of 8 large empires sent their princes and crown princes to congratulate them, which accounted for half of the large empires on the continent. From this point of view, it was also an unprecedented grand occasion. Sigh, sister, if it weren't for the Grand Tutor, how could there be such a grand occasion today? 8 countries came to congratulate us. It's all because I'm a sensible person. Eastern Lu sighed with emotion. He valued and respected Jiang Tian very much, and he spoke to Mou with his divine consciousness complacently. But brother Wu Yachong and a few other crown princes from neighboring countries are here to congratulate us. These neighboring countries have been enemies with us in history. Do you think they're just here to congratulate us? They've all brought divine transformation experts with them. Mou glanced at the crowd and a hint of coldness appeared in her beautiful eyes. Her pretty face gradually became solemn. Each of them had brought a few divine transformation experts, and there were more than 20 or 30 of them in total. This was only on the surface. What if there were people in the dark? I know. A hint of solemnity appeared on Eastern Lu's face, and boundless determination flashed in his eyes. But we don't have any other choice. Moreover, we have the Grand Tutor Xiqing. I've always sought stability, but this time we have to take a risk. It was also at this time that the many guests finished their greetings and sat down in their seats. With the announcement of "the feast begins," Eastern Lu and many insiders suddenly felt their hearts beat faster. They all knew that a bloody massacre was getting closer and closer. Chapter 1999. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, all parties scrambled forward to offer their blessings. At this time Eastern Lu suddenly let out a long sigh, looking very distressed. Your Majesty, today is the Grand Tutor's housewarming banquet. It's a joyous occasion, and all the vassals have gathered to celebrate with the Grand Tutor and Your Majesty. Moreover, there are sects and great sects that have come to offer their congratulations, and tens of thousands of countries have come to court. Fong Jinlong hurriedly asked from the side. Eastern Lu shook his head and sighed. If it weren't for the assistance of the great clans of the ministers back then, there wouldn't be the Eastern Empire today and I wouldn't have my current position. But you don't know that being an emperor also has its difficulties. Sometimes I feel that being an emperor is better than being a vassal. Being a commoner is more carefree. To tell you the truth, I haven't had a good night's sleep ever since I inherited the throne. Jiang Tian chuckled and said, Brother, I don't like what you're saying. Apart from the carefree hidden sects, who doesn't envy the emperor's position under the heavens? Eastern Lu laughed bitterly and said, Yes, who doesn't envy this position? Who doesn't covet this position? Fong Jinlong seemed to be startled and hurriedly knelt on the ground saying, Your Majesty, why do you say such things? Now that the Purple Marquis has rebelled and has been suppressed by the Grand Tutor, the world is at peace. Who would dare to be half-hearted towards you? I naturally know of your loyalty. Do you think I don't trust you? Eastern Lu swept his gaze over the vassals and said in a low voice, However, there are bound to be those who covet riches and honor among your subordinates. In their eyes, only when you are the emperor can they become vassals and great commanders. They insist on draping the imperial jade seal over your shoulders and stuffing it into your hands. Even if you don't want to do it, can you? Seeing this scene apart from Crown Prince Yachong and those in the know, everyone was shocked. Everyone present was shocked as tempestuous waves rose in their hearts. They already understood the meaning behind Dongfang Lu's words. This big black is too deceitful. The Duke of the Northern Frontier by Xianlin's expression changed drastically. Many thoughts flashed through his mind at lightning speed. He involuntarily glanced at Blackie, who was standing beside Jiang Tian, and secretly clenched his teeth. You can eat so much, eating so many of my dendrobium heavenly pills making me bleed, but I didn't expect that what you gave was fake news. And he even said something about reforming the hidden dragon trials. How could it be so simple? Dongfang Lu's words clearly implied that he wanted to abolish the feudal system. However, Duke Bai Xianlin of the Northern Frontier hesitated and did not immediately express his opinion. Of course, he wasn't willing to hand over his fief, but he knew that he had no other choice. He didn't have any bargaining chips and he wasn't prepared enough. As for the proud world sect master Zhou Xian, his eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed past. Crown Prince Yachong gently fanned himself with a calm expression. A faint smile hung at the corner of his mouth as if he had nothing to do with this matter. Hall Master Xing of the ancient medicine hall scanned the surroundings warily. His gaze swept past the experts one after another, as if he was calculating the strength of both sides. Fairy Qingzhua's magic power began to fluctuate, and a holy weapon that resembled the wings of a cicada appeared in her hand. While the Duke of the Northern Frontier was hesitating, Lin Hanqing had already left his seat with Lin Yong and Fang Goyu. He knelt on the ground and cried, "Your Majesty, this subject is stupid and crude. I didn't think of this. Your Majesty, please show this subject a bright path." Your Majesty, although the ancestors of the feudal vassals have made great contributions to the empire, everyone knows that only the Eastern Empire truly bestowed titles and fiefs. It can be said that everything the feudal vassals have is given to them by the imperial family. If the imperial family takes it away for the sake of the empire's development, of course we will cooperate. We are duty-bound. Fang Jinlong also expressed his opinion once again with tears in his eyes. Even Lin Yang's acting was not bad. He said vehemently, "Your Majesty, the entire empire knows that I, Lin Yang, am a piece of trash. I'm the most unpromising successor of a feudal vassal, always muddle-headed. However, I've also seen the current drawbacks. The national treasury is very empty, and many feudal vassals don't pay tribute year after year. That day, in order to treat Princess Ying's illness, we went to the ancient medicine hall in Icebound City to buy sunfall stones, but we couldn't afford it. Because the second prince couldn't transfer any money at all. A daughter of the imperial family wants to treat her illness, but has no money to buy medicine. Isn't this the biggest joke in the world? The feudal vassals have control over their fiefs and titles, causing the social hierarchy to solidify. Many talented and ordinary disciples can't serve the empire, and can only join sects. Now the empire is already in a state where it's difficult to recover from old habits. In the long run, the empire will no longer be a nation and the people will have no way to make a living. For this, we must all take out the courage to scrape our bones and heal our wounds. It's time to test everyone's loyalty. No matter what you do in order to save the empire, I, Lin Yong, am willing to give up everything." As he spoke, he put on an expression of facing death with equanimity. "Good Lin Yong. Although the empire says that you're a reckless person, we don't see it that way." Eastern Lu's face was full of praise as he swept his gaze over the crowd. "I'm thinking for you and you're thinking for us. Hand over your military power, fiefs and titles. If you feel that you're too old, you can retire and return to your hometown to enjoy your old age. If you still want to serve the empire, you can become a governor or general. All the heirs of the feudal vassals will participate in the hidden dragon trials and obtain official positions based on their own abilities. I can even betroth my daughter to them and will become in-laws. Isn't that great? Your Majesty is too considerate of us." "Thank you, Your Majesty. We're willing to give up our titles and fiefs." Fang Jinlong, Lin Hanqing, Lin Yang, and Fang Goyu all said in unison. "Everyone, what do you think?" Jiang Tian chuckled, his sharp gaze sweeping over the crowd. An enormous pressure descended from the heavens like the weight of Mount Tai. Instantly, the feudal vassals were pressed so hard that they almost vomited blood and knelt on the ground. Too strong. At this moment, even the Duke of the Northern Frontier by Xianlin couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to submit because he saw the Duke of the Eastern Gorge nodding repeatedly, brewing his emotions, as if he was about to declare his position in the next moment. He knew that the state preceptor was too strong. With the strength of the feudal vassals, there was no way they could contend against him. The Lin and Fong families had already made their stance clear. In addition, the Duke of the Eastern Gorge had been saved by the state preceptor, so it was very likely that he would also submit. With so much power added together, if any of the feudal vassals didn't have the ability to resist, they would be crushed into dregs. In reality, at this moment, apart from the truly prepared dukes like the Duke of West Ridge, 99% of the feudal vassals had the intention to submit. No one was willing to be stripped of their titles and fiefs. But the situation was compelling, and the state preceptor was as powerful as a dragon. If they didn't submit, only death awaited them. And if they submitted quickly, the imperial family would also give them a chance. They could still be ministers, and their successors could even participate in the hidden dragon trials. Just as the Duke of the Northern Frontier and the other feudal vassals were filled with resentment, sorrow, unwillingness, and despair, they stood up and prepared to bow. A meaningful smile appeared on Eastern Lu's face. He looked gratefully at Zhang Tian, and Zhang Tian was also immensely pleased with himself. He threw flirtatious glances at eldest Princess Mou and Fairy Qingjue. Mou and Qingjue pouted coquettishly in their hearts, but they all thought that the general situation was already set. Today they would subdue the enemy without a fight, rewrite history, and bring about a great change that would bring about eternal blessings. Suddenly, a cold female voice spread through the crowd in an instant. Your Majesty, stripping the feudal vassals of their titles and fiefs is greatly inappropriate. At this moment, everyone's expressions changed wildly. No one had expected that at the final juncture, there would still be someone who wanted to reverse the situation and defy the state preceptor's might. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. They saw Lin Dai's delicate figure standing proudly, her sleeves fluttering in the breeze. Her pretty face was filled with determination, and her beautiful eyes stared fearlessly at Zhang Tian. Chapter 2000. At this moment, except for Long Juxue and Crown Prince Yacheng, who knew in advance and were mentally prepared, the others were all dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Everyone looked at Lin Dai as if she was crazy. Eastern Lu's face suddenly became ugly, and Dongfang Ding and the eldest princess were even more murderous. If looks could kill, Lin Dai would have died 100 times. Needless to say, the emperor and the members of the royal family, they all thought that Zhang Tian had already arranged everything, and Lin Hanqing and Fang Jinlong's statements were also carried out according to Zhang Tian's arrangements. Then why did Lin Dai jump out? According to the imperial tutor's plan, he was about to announce that the sooner you surrender, the more benefits you will get. Your fief can be kept for another 50 years, and half of the annual tribute will be waived. This is the most beneficial to your Lin family. Why do you want to ruin your own family's pot? This girl is crazy, isn't she? Or has her cultivation gone mad and her mind is in a mess? What a weirdo. For example, the Duke of Beijiang and the Duke of Xiling were ecstatic that Lin Dai had secretly sabotaged Zhang Tian's plan, but they couldn't help but think of this. Did this girl eat the wrong pill? Was she bewitched by someone? She actually jumped up before us? Most of the dukes and marquises were disloyal and had no regard for the royal family, so they would definitely be cruelly attacked by the imperial tutor and the royal family. And your Lin family is a loyal minister who has contributed greatly in quelling the rebellion of the Marquis of Purple Robe. Moreover, Lin Yang's cultivation is now in defiance of the natural order, and the imperial tutor rose from your Lin family. You don't even need to think about it, he will go easy on your Lin family in this great reform so that your Lin family and even the Fong family will benefit the most. But you actually fought with him. This is too unbelievable. What did you say? Zhang Tian's eyes also became cold and a fierce light flashed in them. He was the evil side of Zhang Tian and was not as merciful as the real one. He was filled with murderous, cruel, and ferocious emotions. He had long wanted to slap Lin Dai to death, but he was afraid that Zhang Tian would be angry. But today, don't blame me for being cruel and merciless. This Lin Dai is too brainless. She is stretching out her head and begging me to chop it off. At this moment, the one who was most devastated was Lin Hanqing. He had never thought that he would have to follow the imperial tutor's plan and not go against it in the slightest. But his daughter still came out to cause trouble. The housewarming banquet seemed peaceful, but it was actually filled with killing intent. Although the vassals did not resist now, it was only because they were caught off guard that they had lost their minds. But in reality they had brought a large number of experts with them. Once someone took the lead, they would immediately unite and a great war would break out. Even the sects and the forces of the neighboring countries would join in the battle. People like Prince Yachong of the Black Moon Empire naturally wanted to see the Eastern Empire fall into chaos and profit from it. Lin Dyer, stand down. How can a girl like you interfere in the affairs of the country? Lin Hanqing was burning with anxiety as he shouted loudly. He was very strict, but in his heart he wanted nothing more than to kneel down in front of his daughter. He couldn't hit her nor could he kill her. Your Majesty, Imperial Tutor Saint, please don't be angry. My sister had no choice but to take 3 golden blaze luo hua pills to break through the bottleneck of her cultivation. The side effects of this pill are extremely great. It has already caused her heart to blaze and her thoughts to become chaotic. That's why she is spouting such nonsense. It can't be taken seriously, it can't be taken seriously. Lin Yang was so frightened that he almost couldn't stand properly. He quickly stepped forward and pulled Lin Dyer out. As he spoke, he winked at Lin Dyer. Oh, is that so? If it's true, then it's pardonable to absolve her of the crime. However, in the path of cultivation, one still has to rely on oneself and fight against the heavens. One can't rely too much on external objects. Eastern Lu smiled slightly. He didn't delve into it, nor could he. On the side, when Hall Master Xing of the Ancient Medicine Hall received a glance from the late Jiang Tian, he stood up and testified, Your Majesty, there is indeed such a thing. The golden blaze luo hua pills were personally refined by me and sold to Miss Lin. It must be because the luo hua spiritual flower I used was not pure, which led to such a situation. In serious cases she might even go crazy. Next time this subject will be extremely careful. In fact, Hall Master Xing hated Lin Dyer so much that he wanted to kick her to death. She's just a shit stirrer. However, since Jiang Tian had given the order, he had no choice but to testify for her. He even sacrificed his own reputation. Although he didn't care about Lin Dyer's life or death, he was also worried that Lin Dyer, this fuse, would ignite the gunpowder keg of the feudal vassals. At that time Jiang Tian would be all alone, attacked from all sides. I see. After this, let the imperial physician treat her. Eastern Lu said in a low voice. Everyone thought that this matter was over, but Lin Dyer shook off Lin Yang's hand and said loudly, I didn't eat the wrong pill and I'm not crazy. Your Majesty, everyone, are you afraid to let me speak? Do you have to cover my mouth? The truth is always clearer the more you debate it. If the state preceptor's change to the county system really makes sense, will everyone be convinced? This time Fang Jinlong, Lin Hanqing and the others were about to go crazy. Lin Dyer's mouth couldn't be covered no matter what. Am I the enemy who killed this woman's father in her previous life? Eastern Lu's heart was also filled with murderous intent. Once this matter was over, he would find a reason to cripple this woman, or even cut off her head. Fuck your mother. At this moment Hall Master Xing of the Ancient Kiln Hall wanted to kill someone. I gave up my reputation to speak up for you, but you flatly denied it. Isn't this a slap to my face? Drunkards never say that they're drunk. If they can realize that they've gone crazy, then they're not crazy. Even the usually good-tempered Dongfang Li couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't help but mock her. Lin Dyer, what's wrong with you? Even if you had objections to this change, why didn't you say so in advance? After all, you're the staunch vassals who protect the imperial family. Everything can be discussed openly. The news has already been passed down for a few days, and the housewarming banquet has gone on for several days. You didn't say anything, so everyone thought you were fine. But at the last moment you suddenly jumped up and stabbed a knife. As for Dongfang Ding and Mou, there was no need to say anything. They ground their teeth so hard that they almost shattered, and wanted nothing more than to behead this woman. But at this moment, no one on the imperial family's side said anything. They were all waiting for Jiang Tian to make a statement. Because the true leader of this great change, or rather the imperial family's final trump card, was Jiang Tian. And whether or not to play this card wasn't something the imperial family could decide. It depended on whether Jiang Tian himself was willing to make a move. I think you're crazy to the extreme, why don't you get out of here? Lin Hanqing was so shocked and angry that he couldn't bear it anymore, and he slapped his palm toward Lin Dyer. He used 10% of his Dharma power in this slap and it was precisely controlled. It would hurt his daughter, but it wouldn't be fatal. Father, how can you bear to do this? Lin Dyer didn't expect her father to be so ruthless to her, and she couldn't help but cry out in shock. Daughter, I'm trying to protect you. Lin Hanqing's heart was filled with sorrow and he didn't show any mercy. But when the Dharma power in his palm was about to hit his daughter, Jiang Tian flicked his finger, and suddenly the Dharma power disappeared without a trace. Lin Dyer, since you want to say it, then say it. Under the incredulous gaze of the crowd, Jiang Tian flicked his finger, glanced at the crowd and said casually, if you have any ideas you can say it. But if you don't persuade me and make me unhappy, then I'll kill you. Chapter 2001. Domineering. Although the tone of Jiang Tian's words was very calm, it was very domineering. The entire audience was silent as they looked over in disbelief. It was as if they were dreaming. Because the range of the words, everyone, was too wide. Other than the dukes, there were also the royal family of other countries and the giants of the hidden sects. Wasn't the imperial preceptor's words disregarding the hidden sects of the royal family of another country? The imperial advisor does indeed have the bearing to suppress the world. In his seat, the sect leader of the world-defying sect, Zhou chuckled. His eyes were deep and his emotions were restrained. His tone seemed to be praising and mocking. No one could figure out his background. A true expert has always been good at winning over people's hearts, but making too many enemies to increase their chances of winning. But this Jiang Xiqing is too reckless, too careless. At this moment, Elder Yu Hua of the Cold Moon Sword sect frowned and revealed a disappointed expression. Of course, he admired Jiang Tian's cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited him to join forces with him to explore the secret. However, Jiang Tian's actions today made him regret inviting Jiang Tian. Not to mention anything else, Zhou was a true saint. His strength was probably not inferior to the Abyss Devil Dragon in the slightest. If you add in the many semi-god realm warriors brought by the dukes, your divination would be extremely low. The key was that in his opinion, Jiang Tian didn't need to provoke the hidden sects and the royal family of other countries. As long as he said, this is our country's internal affairs, it has nothing to do with other countries, or, all the experts of the hidden sects don't bother with the secular world. Why lower your status and speak for these mortal dukes? He could send them away with a few words. But now it was great. How can this kind of person be qualified to be the teacher of a country? His IQ is too low and he doesn't have enough motivation. Although Crown Prince Yachong and the others didn't say anything, their faces were filled with ridicule. Although this imperial advisor Xiqing was powerful, he was actually very young. Moreover, he had risen too quickly and hadn't experienced too many hardships and setbacks. He had blindly acted recklessly and didn't understand many things of the world. He was too anxious for success, which was why he had created such a situation. Strength is strength and the wrist is the wrist. He wants to build the Eastern Empire into a powerful country by himself, but he's still far from it. Many princes of other countries were chatting with each other through their divine senses. Although many people did not say anything, their hearts were filled with jealousy towards Jiang Tian, this new powerhouse. In particular, many people knew that he was a rogue cultivator from beyond the Milky Way, but he dominated the world and won great fame. Even many hidden sect giants thought highly of him and they hated him to the bone. But he didn't know. Jiang Tian wanted to blow things up, the bigger the better. He wanted to cover up his real intention of rescuing Huang Linger. Therefore at this time I, Jiang Tian, wish that I could risk universal condemnation and become the enemy of the world. Since Sage Xiqing is willing to speak, then I do have some ideas to discuss with the imperial preceptor. The sect master of the world-defying stage sword sect, Zhou stood up. The surrounding sword chi was dense, the laws were sharp and fierce. Oh, say it. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes at him. Although Zhou's temples were white, his eyebrows were sword-like and his eyes were starry. His sharp aura was threatening. The slightly white hair only made him look more gloomy and charming. In the face of Jiang Tian's sharp gaze, he didn't lose out at all. Imperial Preceptor, please listen to me. How did the feudal lords get their fiefdoms and titles? That's all because their ancestors followed the great ancestor Emperor Dongfang Run to conquer the world. They fought with their swords and spears and exchanged their blood and lives. Besides all these years, which one of the feudal lords wasn't loyal? Didn't the feudal lords all send troops to suppress the rebellion of the Purple Robe Marquis? Also, we shouldn't overestimate people's moral character. These fiefdoms and titles belong to the feudal lords, so they will fight for the empire. If it were a civil official or a military general, would they do their best? No matter how hard they fight, it's the royal family's, not their own. Then why do they fight so hard? Su Zhi didn't finish his words. Master Su is right. Another monk with a huge body that was faintly golden in color, surrounded by the laws of blood energy, and overflowing with a black baleful aura, took a step forward as well. Killing intent flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. The sect master of the anti-Buddha sect, Ancestor Black Buddha, half-step void return, was known as a sage to be. This sect was a branch of Buddhism, but it was not orthodox. It was extreme and willful, and it believed in punishing evil to promote good. It proved its Tao by killing the world. His character was fierce and violent, like a Skunda who subdued demons, like a Vajra who glared fiercely. He said in a loud voice, "Now the demons of the Eastern Empire are causing chaos in the world. The current enemy is the demon race of the pantheon of demons. They supported the Purple Robe Marquis, and they may also support other feudal lords or even other empires. The demon race, especially the demonized demon race, is not only the enemy of the Eastern Empire, but also the common enemy of the entire human race in the Saint Origin world. At this time, the external enemy hasn't been eliminated. How can we fight among ourselves? If the feudal lords and the royal family fight, won't the enemy be happy?" Princess Mou said telepathically. Before Patriarch Black Buddha became a monk, he was a member of the Yang family of Marquis Black Fox. You almost slapped Marquis Black Fox into pieces. No wonder Patriarch Black Buddha stands up to refute you. Jiang Tian chuckled and glanced at the feudal lords. "Patriarch Black Buddha, do you want to fight the royal family, or rather you want to fight me? Anyone? Do you dare to stand out?" At the foot of the stairs, the eyes of the dukes, marquises and their successors flickered, but they remained silent. Nobody dared to say a word. Useless things. So many demi-saints and saints are against Jiang Xiqing. But you don't even dare to say a word. Patriarch Black Buddha couldn't help but curse in his heart. He was sad for their misfortune and angry for their cowardice. However, he also understood that it was not that these feudal lords didn't want to rebel, or that they didn't dare to. It was just that no one wanted to be the first one to stand out. After all, Jiang Xiqing was so domineering that she could kill anyone she disagreed with. However, Patriarch Black Buddha also believed that Lin Dyer had already stood out. If he and the other sect leaders fanned the flames, they wouldn't be afraid that they wouldn't rebel. Even if they didn't rebel today, the seeds of rebellion had been planted. Thinking of this, Patriarch Black Buddha smiled and said, "Master, I'm just making an example. Even if they're still loyal and patriotic, they'll still be a bit disappointed, which will also affect their enthusiasm to eliminate the demons." Exactly. Marquis Purple Robe has rebelled and many soul formation grand cultivators have died. The Empire's vitality has been greatly damaged. We can't afford to suffer any more. The demons are the biggest problem. The feudal lords are loyal. How can we treat them as enemies? Unite the feudal lords, eliminate the demons, train their successors, improve the relationship with the hidden sects and obtain the resources of the demons. That's killing two birds with one stone. Many of the sect leaders present tried their best to persuade him. They looked as if Jiang Tian were an unfaithful man and they were the aunties of the neighborhood committee who were persuading a young man to turn over a new leaf. In the end, even Elder Yuehua of the Cold Moon Sword sect objected. Chapter 2002. Many sect leaders. This said that the imperial preceptor should be lenient. It was not easy for the vassals. Only by uniting them could the imperial preceptor show the magnanimity of the imperial preceptor of the country. Otherwise, there would be suspicion of partisanship. Another said that if the vassals were forced into a corner and rebelled, Jiang Xiqing might not be able to withstand it. Back then, Dongfang Jia was also a man of great talent and bold vision, but in the end he went against the grain and ruined the country. He could only abandon himself and associate himself with the demon clan. There were also some who said that the vassals all occupied strategic positions and had created divine formations. Their magical power was vast and powerful, and they each had their own battle formations. If they really attacked Jiang Xiqing together, he might not be able to win. Some people even suspected that Jiang Xiqing was trying to provoke conflict and bring chaos to the empire by crushing the vassals. The sects were fearless and openly opposed it in the name of persuasion. The princes and envoys of the various countries were whispering to each other through telepathy. They were all forming an alliance and opposing it. That's right. Today was supposed to be the Imperial Preceptor's housewarming. Everyone prepared generous gifts and traveled millions of miles to congratulate him. Why did he suddenly announce the lifting of the enfeoffment system? The Crown Prince of the Dragon Soaring Empire sighed. I heard that the Pantheon of Demons has a deep foundation and has the protection of immortal sacred weapons and vast sacred formations. I'm afraid this Imperial Preceptor Xiqing won't dare to fight head-on. She's just picking on these vassals. There was also a prince of a country who mocked. Haha, if Jiang Xiqing insists on going against the grain and bullying the weak, our country will definitely not sit idly by. We must send troops and uphold justice. The Crown Prince of the Yacheng dynasty expressed his strong stance and even sent telepathy to the vassals, urging them on. Yes. The Pantheon of Demons is based in the Eastern Empire. Similarly, the Eastern Empire was also the first line of defense against the Demon Clan. Once this line of defense was destroyed by the Demon Clan, the consequences would be unimaginable. One of the princes was deeply worried. As soon as his words fell, many people were incited. This time, eldest Princess Mou, little Princess Dongfang, and the others all discovered it. This time, it seemed as if the various countries had come to congratulate him, and thousands of sects and clans had joined the Imperial Advisor's residence to celebrate their move. However, other than Fairy Qingjue from the Nine Mysteries sect and Elder Xing from the Ancient Medicine Hall, many other forces had formed a battle line. They had threatened, persuaded, and enticed from various angles. However, in essence they were all against Jiang Tian. Most importantly, Jiang Tian couldn't kill him yet. After all, on the surface, they were all acting like they were doing it for the good of the Imperium and for the righteousness of mankind. If Jiang Tian rashly killed someone, it would be hard for him to survive in the Saint Origin world. Everyone might fear Jiang Tian, but they would never respect you, nor would they be willing to work for you or cooperate with you. After all, the true big shots of the sects, regardless of how they were on the inside, were all passable on the surface. Only when they had both virtue and ability would they be respected by others, and only then would they be able to climb to a high position and sit on a seat of authority. For a moment, everyone's faces were filled with worry and anxiety. On the one hand, Jiang Tian couldn't make a move. But on the other hand, if Jiang Tian really wanted to make a move now, his chances of winning wouldn't be high. Suja was a true void return saint, and he was probably on par with Jiang Tian alone. Coupled with the other big shots of the sects, Jiang Tian would immediately be at a disadvantage. Mr. Jiang. Dongfang wanted to speak several times, but she was stopped by eldest Princess Mou. Right now, there were sages and soul formation cultivators in the main hall. This kind of occasion was a battle between the big shots. Only the emperor of a country and the big shots of the sects were qualified to speak. Even the princes weren't qualified to speak. Dongfang was only a little princess and she was even less qualified to speak. At this time, even Dongfang Lu, Fang Jinlong, Lin Hanqing, and the others didn't dare to speak at this moment. The situation had gone out of control, far beyond their previous expectations. They couldn't make up their minds and could only wait for Jiang Tian's decision. Their bodies were tense. In the crowd, only Lin Dai had a smug look on her face. For the first time she realized that she was quite smart. Even the big shots of the sects happened to agree with her. Do you mean that I can't abolish the vassal system? Jiang Tian glanced at everyone with a faint smile and said indifferently, it would be best if I give them some provisions, soldiers and horses, and give them some land so that they can resist the invasion of the demon clan together. What do you think? Is that so? They fought against the Purple Marquis and suffered heavy losses. They should get some rewards and recuperate. Suja nodded. That's best. It shows that the Imperial Preceptor is magnanimous and magnanimous. Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha slapped his thigh and laughed. It's best if the Imperial Preceptor and the royal family make an announcement and sign a divine soul contract with the vassals to continue to recognize their titles and land, and it won't change for 10,000 years. Back then Dongfang Run relied on them to build the empire, but Dongfang Jie never changed this system. With the wisdom of the Imperial Preceptor, you should mobilize all forces and motivate them. The royal family and the vassals should work together to rule the empire and suppress the demons. This is the way to long-term stability of the Eastern Empire. Many big shots of the sects nodded. This idea made Dongfang Ying and the others change their expressions. Although the vassal system would continue, they didn't say that it wouldn't change for 10,000 years, and the royal family didn't owe any contracts with the vassals. In other words, the royal family still had the right to abolish the system or remove some of the vassals' land. But now, these big shots of the sects were really pushing their luck. Fairy Qingjue saw that even Elder Yuehua nodded with a smile and couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. As the holy maiden of the divine sect, she had extraordinary knowledge. Of course, she knew that apart from the truly selfless big shots, most of the hidden sects were never willing to let the secular imperial power be too strong. Jiang Tian abolished the vassal system, established a highly centralized empire, and realized the revolution of the talent selection system of the secular countries. It was very likely that it would stimulate the potential of the secular empire and form a huge monster, threatening the position of the sections. Letting the vassals continue to exist and keep the royal family in check was the best for their interests. Although Jiang Tian was strong, if Zhou Xian, Patriarch Black Buddha, and the others worked together, they might not be afraid. Zai Jiang Xiqing, how should you deal with it? At this moment, Fairy Qingjue's limpid eyes seemed to be in a dream as she looked at Jiang Tian. At this moment there was also a big battle in the garden. Even though it was an undercurrent, not an open battle, it was still extremely dangerous. For Jiang Tian this was a great challenge. Zai, everyone is saying the same thing. So troublesome. If I had known, I would have called Elder Gu. Even if someone more honorable came, he could have said a few words for Mr. Jiang. Elder Xing of the ancient medicine hall was also wringing his hands and sighing nervously. In his opinion, this was a test of Jiang Tian's skills and tactics. It was unrealistic to rely on strength and cultivation to suppress the big shots of the sects present, and it was also difficult to convince the masses. Or should I say you're against it, or you're not allowing me to abolish the vassal system? Jiang Tian leaned forward, his eyes shining. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and a terrifying killing intent seemed to have bloomed. Chapter 2003. Zhou Xian, the sect master of the world-defying sect, expressed his stance again. The imperial tutor has just taken office and his foundation is not stable yet. He should rope in the feudal lords. Isn't the most important task at hand to eliminate the pantheon of demons? He's a layman in foreign wars and an expert in civil wars. It's not an exaggeration to say that such a person is the sinner of the empire and the enemy of all living beings in the world. Patriarch Black Buddha shouted angrily. In the end, even Elder Yuehua of the Frost Moon Sword sect expressed her stance again. Imperial tutor, this matter should be considered carefully. Look, no one supports it. The Frost Moon Sword sect was a peerless sword sect on the continent and was very powerful. Moreover, Elder Yuehua had brought several peak soul formation cultivators with her this time. Each of them had the power of laws and great Dao fragments floating. Their sword chi was chilling and their killing Dao was extremely terrifying, comparable to that of a half-sage. Most importantly, the Frost Moon Sword sect was at the northernmost tip of the continent, a place where demonic creatures roamed. They were number one in killing and defended the human Dao of the continent. They were enemies of the demon race and were known as the Great Wall of Sword Chi. Therefore they were highly respected on the continent and would respond to a single call. If Jiang Tian were to become enemies with them, it would be equivalent to becoming enemies with half of the continent. As a big shot of the sect, Elder Yuehua's words carried a lot of weight and were like gold. Hearing this, Eastern Lu, Eastern Ding and eldest Princess Mou's expressions froze. Sage. In the end, even Elder Xing of the ancient medicine hall spoke up to persuade him. Fairy Qingjue also wanted to say something but stopped. After all, everyone was agitated and experts were gathered. This was no longer just a conflict with the feudal lords. It involved the neighboring countries and sections. Jiang Tian and the Eastern royal family could not go against the entire continent and become enemies with the world. Jiang Tian waved his hand and interrupted their persuasion. He slowly stood up and said, "What if I insist on eliminating the feudal system? Then the sage will go against the will of the major sects and sacred grounds and become enemies with the world. Although he can be a tyrant for a while, he will be resisted by the major forces of the continent. The sage is powerful, but can he suppress the entire continent?" Old Ancestor Black Buddha said coldly. Many half-saints and soul formation realm cultivators were sitting cross-legged on two sides of the high seats. They were all looking at Zhang Tian with cold eyes. Apparently they were against Zhang Tian. At that moment, the entire back garden of the Grand Preceptor's residence fell silent. The atmosphere was heavy and the air seemed to have stopped circulating. Even the entire imperial capital could feel that oppressive aura. It was as if dark clouds were pressing down on the city, threatening to destroy it. In an instant, countless cultivators pushed their consciousness towards the imperial advisor's residence or rose into the sky to look down. Many people knew that a great change that had never happened in the past 3,000 years had taken place at this moment. This time, it would decide the fate of the empire and even affect the entire continent. To the Eastern Empire, was it the feudal system or the county system? Was it the feudal system that monopolized the interests of the country, or was it the successful reform of the royal family that gave the commoners a chance to be promoted? To the people of Saint Origin World, this was the beginning of the empire's rebellion against the sects. Does he think that he alone can suppress the entire Saint Origin World? Crown Prince Yecheng chuckled and talked to the princes with his divine will. The next moment, Zhang Tian suddenly burst into laughter as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. He held his stomach and almost rolled off the stage. Not only did his laughter spread throughout the entire back garden, but it also resounded in 100 miles around the imperial advisor's residence, causing the clouds to scatter and the mountains to shake. At this moment, millions of people in the city heard Zhang Tian's laughter. It was a laughter filled with killing intent. Disobeying you. Do you think you're worthy? Zhang Tian's laughter didn't stop. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at everyone. The killing intent in his eyes became more and more intense as if there were flames that could burn the sky. Many saints and grand cultivators felt a chill in their hearts. They felt as if their divine souls were being burned by karmic fire. The more he laughed, the more the grand cultivators and half-saints looked terrible. Saint Xiqing, may I ask why you're laughing like that? Are you not going to take this poor monk's advice seriously? The bad-tempered old ancestor Black Buddha shouted. Shut up. Zhang Tian's eyes widened. Swish. His purple lightning eyes were activated and the flames of the red sparrow spewed out. They were all divine laws and seemed to be able to split the sky. Old ancestor Black Buddha didn't even have time to react. His body was directly penetrated by the lightning and a stream of black blood spurted high into the air like a fountain. His body was also sent flying and crashed into the rockery. The flames of the vermilion bird swarmed forward and enveloped ancestral patriarch Black Buddha, disintegrating his physical body, Dharma and Great Tao, and destroying his divine treasures. In the end, even his divine soul turned into green smoke and dissipated in the world. From the beginning to the end, he couldn't resist at all. After one attack, the sect master of the anti-Buddha sect, Old Ancestor Black Buddha, died. This time everyone was stunned. The princes and the overlords froze and their eyes were filled with astonishment. They didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so powerful. He killed without any hesitation. They also didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so powerful that he could easily kill Old Ancestor Black Buddha, a half-step void return cultivator, who was known as a half-saint. The overlords were so frightened that they didn't even dare to say a word. Lin Dai turned pale and couldn't even stand still. After a long while, Zhang Tian's voice was heard. Since when do you have the right to interrupt when I'm talking? At this time, apart from a few saints who were still able to remain calm, many soul formation grand cultivators and half-saints trembled slightly after hearing Zhang Tian's domineering words. Suzhi, Elder Yuehua and the other overlords also looked extremely pale. Even Fairy Qingjue and Elder Xing were shocked and worried. They didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so powerful that he dared to kill someone in front of so many overlords. They also couldn't predict how things would turn out later. At this moment, the entire empire and even the sects on the Saint Origin continent were watching this banquet through Dharma artifacts. It was too shocking that Zhang Tian killed Old Ancestor Black Buddha, who was a half-step void return cultivator. It was even more shocking than killing the abyssal demonic dragon. After all, it was an instant kill. At this moment, countless cultivators were startled. The soul formation grand cultivators in particular changed their expressions and became anxious. If Zhang Tian had only destroyed someone's body, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Almost all the soul formation grand cultivators here could be reborn from a drop of blood, just like having billions of clones. As long as a god didn't die, It would be very easy for him to reconstruct his body or take over someone else's body. However, Zhang Tian had destroyed his body and soul. That was too terrifying. As for Prince Yachong and the others, they didn't even dare to say a word. Their faces turned as pale as paper and they lowered their heads, not daring to look at Zhang Tian. Saint Xiqing, why did you kill someone so brazenly? Elder Yuehua held back her panic and uneasiness and asked reluctantly. Old Ancestor Black Buddha spoke rudely to me and I just wanted to teach him a lesson. I didn't expect that he couldn't even withstand a glance from me. He's too weak. Zhang Tian shook his head and sighed as if he was regretful. Everyone's eyes twitched and their eyebrows twitched. Chapter 2004. Zhang Tian's words were domineering. The elders of the anti-Buddha sect were so shocked that they almost jumped up. It should be noted that Ancestor Black Buddha had practiced the Buddha's palm in reverse for thousands of years. He had condensed the 4 great laws of slaughter, plunder, torture and world extermination, and cultivated the Great Wheel Buddha of world extermination and its corresponding golden body. Normal soul formation divine lords might not be able to kill him even with a sacred weapon. And yet Zhang Tian said that Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha was too weak. As a matter of fact, the soul formation divine lords and the giants who were as powerful as Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha felt humiliated. If Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha was weak, what were they? Maggots? Zhang Tian's words were just like an old saying. It wasn't harmful, but it was extremely insulting. There were some people who were unconvinced and wanted to refute. But they were tongue-tied and couldn't say a word. Because they found that Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha was indeed unable to resist Zhang Tian's stare. There weren't many weak people present. They all knew that Zhang Tian's stare seemed simple, but it was actually more powerful than the Dharma laws. It was so powerful that they couldn't compare. But the cultivators and mortals below the nascent soul level were confused. They really thought that Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha was killed because he was too weak. Many of the commoners who were watching the housewarming ceremony through their communication Dharma artifacts saw this scene and began to chat while munching on melon seeds, commenting without restraint. Alas! That Black Baldy is too weak. He died after being stared at by a saint. Yeah, he's not strong enough, yet he's still talking nonsense. Does he want to die? So, it's not a bad idea for the Grand Preceptor to kill him. He's courting death. The anti-Buddha sect isn't a sect of the empire. Why do they have to get involved? He offended his superiors and looked for trouble. Who else should the Grand Preceptor kill? If Ancestral Patriarch Black Buddha heard those comments, he would have come back to life. I'm very sorry for his death. Zhang Tian grinned and said. There wasn't even the slightest bit of heartache or apologetic look on his face. It was as if he was about to beat drums and gongs. Saint Xiqing, we came to attend your housewarming ceremony out of respect. You were the one who asked us to raise this opinion. As the saying goes, seek common ground while reserving differences. If we have different opinions, then listen to them. If you don't, then just laugh it off. Killing people indiscriminately and using such bloody methods, are you ignoring us? Elder Yuehua was enraged. He roared repeatedly. After all, the Frost Moon Sword sect was a righteous sect, and his position in the pugilistic world was extremely high. Moreover, unlike Suzhou, who had supported the Duke of Westridge as a puppet and wanted to use him as a tentacle to control the secular power of the empire, Elder Yuehua's words were completely out of goodwill. It was just that his vision was limited, and he did not recognize the advanced nature of Zhang Tian's choice of path. Because of that, he was truly furious. Lord Imperial Preceptor is so bloodthirsty. Do you want to become enemies with us? Your actual level is only the peak stage of the nascent soul stage. You haven't even stepped into the divinity transformation stage. We call you a saint out of respect, but you are nothing if we don't respect you. We tried to persuade you nicely, but you didn't listen. Shame on you. No matter how powerful you are only one person after all. There are several saints, half-saints and divinity transformation stage cultivators here. Will you be a match for them? If you insist on doing things your own way, you will bring the Empire of the East to eternal damnation. Kill this maniac and save the Empire of the East from the fire and water. Kill the maniac Zhang Xiqing for the righteous path. Boom. Boom. Elder Yuehua was a virtuous and respected person. Hearing what she said, all the cultivators on the scene were enraged. Many half-saints and soul formation cultivators stood up. Their fighting spirit surged. Their energy was fully released. The Dharma laws were boiling and fragments of the great Tao shot out. Like a mountain pressing down, they suppressed Jiang Tian from all directions. The members of the Eastern royal family panicked and were shocked. Such a situation was beyond their expectations. They didn't expect Jiang Tian to suppress the opponents so strongly, and they didn't expect that he would provoke such a strong counterattack from so many giants. In fact, it has nothing to do with Mr. Jiang's strength or conciliation. As long as Mr. Jiang wants to implement this system, the giants of the sects who supported the puppets of the feudal lords will definitely intervene and suppress him. In essence, this battle is unavoidable. Princess Mo looked nervous and looked at the field solemnly. Her hand holding the Dharma artifact gradually trembled. Divine lords and saints, please listen to me. Eastern Lu panicked and wanted to persuade them. But no one was willing to listen. For the righteous path we must kill this bastard. The Ice Fire sect is willing to shed our blood. In order to protect the people and get rid of evil for the people, the giant sword tower is willing to die. Kill him. The Moving Mountain sect is willing to fight. As angry roars burst out in the imperial city, an even more shocking scene appeared. One by one, the giants of the sects turned into shocking rainbows and rushed over from afar, surrounding the imperial tutor's residence. Each of them was powerful and had reached the soul formation realm. The laws around them boiled like the sea, and the fragments of the great Tao were as heavy as mountains. Their fighting spirit was torrential, and the laws and great Tao were manifested around them. Golden light shone, or red flames burned the sky, or snow drifted, or as ethereal as clouds and mist. They were densely packed, covering the sky and the ground. At a glance, there were hundreds of people, which was terrifying to the extreme. Among these sects, there were masters behind the scenes who supported the feudal lords of the empire as puppets. But there were also giants of the sects who were purely dissatisfied with Jiang Tian's strength and attacked out of righteous indignation. The violent pressure of the laws of too many divine lords and giants attacked. The protective light shield of the imperial tutor's residence first rippled violently, then cracks appeared, and in the end, it shattered with a loud bang. At this moment, Jiang Tian seemed to have fallen into a peerless killing trap. In the eyes of everyone, he could only submit and couldn't turn the tables. Haha, I definitely didn't expect such a grand occasion. I'm afraid he didn't expect it either. He only has two choices. Either he surrenders and gives up on eliminating the feudal system, or he dies. He's doing a lot of evil and he's doomed. At least half of the many powerful cultivators who came to kill him came spontaneously. They can't stand him at all. Seeing this, many of the Dukes of Westridge and Dukes of Northern Frontier laughed. They no longer bowed but stood up and faced Jiang Tian with a fearless expression. Ah, he's dead meat. I didn't expect so many people to come this time. They can drag him out until he dies. Crown Prince Yichang said with a gloating smile. What Yichang said is right. Many princes of the neighboring countries nodded in agreement. This kind of battle formation was too terrifying. Even the famous sages couldn't deal with it. What's more, in the eyes of everyone, Jiang Tian only had the title of a sage and his strength was close to that of a void return sage. He was only a nascent soul cultivator after all. It was like some marathons. Some newbies could take the lead in the first 100 meters, but they couldn't withstand a single blow later. Chapter 2005. Everyone, whether to keep or abolish the feudal system is a matter of great importance. We can still discuss it. Everyone please calm down. At this moment, eldest Princess Mou's heart was filled with shock and anger. She stood up and floated into the sky, standing side by side with Jiang Tian. She scanned the crowd and said in a deep voice. On the one hand, she was furious. The First Empire implemented household registration control. For example, people couldn't move between cities at will. Identity verification was also required at the border. Once cultivators entered illegally, it was tantamount to invasion or a declaration of war. But for the sects, these were all decorations. They ignored some of them and rushed over. Most importantly, Jiang Tian's Grand Tutor residence represented the face and dignity of the Eastern Empire. However, they still crushed the divine array guarding the residence, ignoring Jiang Tian and the entire royal family. But at the same time, she was also helpless. Although there was order, the strength of the sect was too strong. They had nothing to fear. In the secular world, the royal family was a little better. In the eyes of many sects, ordinary people and even mortals were like ants that could be trampled to death. Lord Grand Tutor definitely has no intention of challenging the reclusive sections. Everyone please leave. Eastern Lu's face was also filled with panic. With a pleading expression, he sighed and said, "As for the death of Patriarch Black Buddha, I and the Empire will be responsible for it to the end and compensate the anti-Buddha sect to the satisfaction." In his heart he felt a bit of resentment and disappointment towards Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian's performance today was too intense. For example, many sects that arrived later were completely prepared because Zhang Tian's performance was too strong. They felt that the secular empire was a threat to the sects, so they took action in advance. This was equivalent to putting a potential conflict on the table at the first moment. Zhang Tian and the Eastern royal family would face double pressure from the feudal lords and the sects. If things went wrong, not only would Zhang Tian die but even the Eastern royal family would be wiped out. He would be the second Dongfang Jie. Or even worse. His country would be destroyed. After all, Dongfang Jie only challenged the feudal lords back then, but he didn't provoke the reclusive sections. Compensation? We don't want it, we just want Jiang Xiqing to pay for it with her life. The experts of the Buddhist defiant sect, whose bodies were shrouded in black, and whose blood-red aura was like a raging sea, roared with murderous intent, vowing to kill Zhang Tian. To a certain extent, some of Eastern Lu's train of thought was correct. Now the hidden sects had decided to intervene. Taking advantage of the fact that Zhang Tian had cleared old ancestor Hefo of the crime, they attacked together and took down the entire Eastern Empire, dividing it up cleanly. How could mere compensation compare to the wealth of an empire? As the victim's family, the anti-Buddhist sect didn't represent their own interests. Instead, they acted as a fuse to ignite this bloody feast. If you stop us, the Dongfang imperial family can be exterminated. A powerful figure of the Buddha-defying sect was very resolute and domineering. With a loud boom, a violent pressure pushed out. Endless murderous intent filled the air and enveloped Eastern Lu and the others. Thump, thump. Eastern Lu's face was ghastly pale. He took several steps back before he could steady himself. His spirit was being crushed to the point of shattering. In an instant, everyone in the Dongfang imperial family, including eldest Princess Mou, was terrified. They were angry but didn't dare to say anything. The hidden sects were really powerful. The imperial preceptor had bitten off more than he could chew this time. If things went wrong, the Dongfang imperial family might be exterminated before the feudal system was abolished. Your Majesty, Jiang Xiqing is cruel and self-opinionated. She ignores the common people and has no compassion. She wants to provoke the conflict between the feudal lords and the imperial family. This fiend must be eliminated. Suzhou walked out gracefully. His aura was extraordinary and ethereal, but his tone was piercingly cold. We are not going against the empire and the imperial family by killing this fiend. We are cleaning up the emperor's henchmen for the sake of the general situation of the world and for the sake of billions of lives. Your Majesty, don't be deceived by this demon. If the Dongfang imperial family wants to stop us, they are too foolish. Once we start fighting, the situation will change rapidly. I'm afraid that the situation will be out of control and endanger the lives of Your Majesty and the imperial family. He seemed to be advising kindly, but the threat was self-evident. In a word, if the Dongfang imperial family wanted to stop them, they would also be exterminated. The conflict has reached its climax. She has endangered the imperial family. At this moment, the Dongfang imperial family were all frightened. Many of them were so angry that they wanted to cut Lin Dyer into pieces. The scene was indeed like a barrel of gunpowder. However, Lin Dyer was definitely the fuse. If she had not caused trouble, Sage Xiqing might have cut the Gordian knot and forcibly implemented the feudal system. Why are you so ambitious? This time Mr. Jiang has really fallen into a state of eternal damnation. Fang Jinlong, Lin Hanqing, and the others all looked at Lin Dyer with disappointment. They sighed and wanted to slap her to death. There are too many experts in this sect. They're too strong. How can this be? Seeing this, Lin Dyer could not believe it and was in a panic. She only wanted to oppose Zhang Tian and obstruct Zhang Tian's plan to abolish the feudal system. At the same time, she wanted to teach Zhang Tian a lesson. However, the current situation had already endangered the imperial family. Even the Lin family of the Marquis of Xinyun would be endangered. He is simply a troublemaker. He really makes people worry. In fact, Fairy Qingjue also felt that Jiang Tian was deliberately aggravating the conflict and making things worse. However, this was not wise. To put it bluntly, Jiang Tian's strength had not reached the level where he could ignore everything. As the saying goes, quantitative changes will lead to qualitative changes. There were already many sages and sage-to-be sages against Jiang Tian. Coupled with the countless divine transformation realm experts, who could resist them? After sighing softly, Fairy Qingjue's beautiful face showed boundless determination. She slowly rose to the sky and stood in front of Jiang Tian, protecting him behind her. She cupped her fists and said in a clear voice, with a hint of pleading on her beautiful little face. You may not know that Mr. Jiang is already my fiancé. To put it bluntly, he is the future son-in-law of the Nine Mysteries sect. Please give me some face and also give face to my father and the Nine Mysteries sect. At this moment Mou Dongfang Ying and Lin Dyer all looked at Fairy Qingjue with mixed feelings. They did not expect that the arrogant Fairy Qingjue would publicly declare her love for Jiang Tian in front of so many people. Her bravery was admirable. Fairy Qingjue's face turned stern and her voice was cold and sonorous like the sound of a sword. If you want to kill him, you will become the enemy of the Nine Mysteries sect. Damn it, this brat is just giving me trouble. In the depths of the mansion, Jiang Tian, who had concealed his aura with the art of deceiving heaven and earth, sighed softly when he saw this scene. He was aloof and did not want to attract unwanted attention. However, Jiang Tian's death was not something he could control. Even Fairy Qingjue is speaking up for him? Fairy Qingjue's appearance was a little scary. It also gave everyone a heavy psychological pressure. In short, the Nine Mysteries sect was one of the top holy lands and divine sects. They were well known in the entire continent. They could suppress the Frosty Moonsword sect and the Proud World sect. They were more powerful than the Eastern Empire. For a moment, everyone fell silent and their killing intent subsided. This also caused the newly formed camp to show signs of disintegration. Elder Xing from the Hall of Ancient Medicine stepped forward and smiled bitterly. Everyone, please know that Sage Xiqing has a deep cooperation with the Hall of Ancient Medicine. Please give us some face. Of course, the Hall of Ancient Medicine was very powerful. However, Elder Xing was not a high-ranking official and his status was not on the same level as Elder Gu. Therefore, he could not represent the entire Hall of Ancient Medicine. Chapter 2006. However, no matter what, this allowed everyone to see the importance and support the Ancient Herb Hall had given Jiang Tian. The Ancient Medicine Hall is also supporting him. The leaders of the various sects were stunned. The murderous aura calmed down again and even started to retreat. Fairy Qingjue, why did you cast your pearls before swine? You've ruined your own reputation by associating yourself with such a villain. Su Zhi wrung his hands and sighed, looking as if he was lamenting his misfortune and angry at his failure to fight. He was also thinking quickly in his heart. To kill Jiang Tian, the Nine Mysteries sect and the Ancient Medicine Hall would be troublesome. However, if they didn't kill him, they would be nurturing a tiger. This person was strong and vengeful. If they didn't kill him today, he would definitely seek revenge in the future. If Jiang Xiqing, you are a man. Do you only know how to hide behind a woman? Crown Prince Yacheng mocked. He was trembling with jealousy. This guy was just a rogue cultivator from the outside world. He was extremely lowly. However, Fairy Qingjue favored him so much. One had to know that Fairy Qingjue would normally not even spare a glance for a crown prince like him. Who do you think you are? He also had no choice but to say these words, wanting to provoke Jiang Tian to come out. If you are a man, come out and fight. However, everyone knew that there was no need to care about face when it came to saving one's life. Jiang Tian would definitely not be provoked into making a move. As expected, Jiang Tian only glanced at him coldly. Then he looked away as if Crown Prince Yacheng was not worth mentioning. Why don't we give face to the Nine Mysteries sect and the Ancient Medicine Hall? Some of the soul formation cultivators wanted to retreat. What should we do? Seeing this, the Duke of Beijiang and the Duke of Xiling panicked. They looked at Elder Yuehua and the other leaders for help. If the sects retreated, Jiang Tian would still want to deal with them. They would definitely not be able to resist. We can give face to the Nine Mysteries sect and the Ancient Medicine Hall. Su Zhi took a step forward and looked at the leaders of the various sections. However, we can't ignore the people of the Eastern Empire. As the righteous cultivators of the continent, We are duty-bound to protect the people of the world. Yes. All the sect leaders nodded in agreement. Imperial Preceptor Xiqing has made a soul contract with us. From now on, we will leave the Eastern Empire and no longer interfere with the internal affairs of the Empire. Suja's face was full of pride and arrogance, as if this was a great gift. We'll let you off the hook and give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. At that moment, everyone had different expressions and reactions. Eastern Lu's fearful expression receded slightly, and he seemed to exhale a long breath. In the next moment he looked at Jiang Tian and sighed, "Imperial tutor, why don't we accept their conditions?" Although eldest Princess Imoyu was unwilling in her heart, she was helpless and remained silent. Lin Yang, Dongfang Ding and the others all sighed. Today all their efforts were in vain. Even Fairy Qingjue looked as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Even if she helped Jiang Tian, not to mention the chances of victory, her chances of survival were extremely slim. She also thought that Jiang Tian would definitely agree. Under everyone's gaze, Jiang Tian took a step forward and said coldly, "I'm not the imperial tutor anymore. It's not impossible for me to no longer hold the position of imperial advisor. I don't care at all. As for changing the feudal system into a county system, I don't have to insist." Although this Jiang Xiqing is arrogant and conceited, she's not completely brainless. Seeing this scene, Elder Yuehua, Suzhou and Crown Prince Yecheng all looked contemptuous. After all, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. He finally bowed his head and admitted defeat under the suppression of so many giants. "Haha, we can still sit and enjoy the glory." The Duke of Xiling and the Duke of Beijiang also looked ecstatic and heaved a long sigh of relief. In the Empire on the continent. "Sigh, the Imperial Preceptor has sacrificed too much for us. For us, he was oppressed by the sect giants, stripped of his official position and lost his glory." The mortals who watched this scene through the communication Dharma artifact all felt their hearts sink. They were filled with grief and indignation, and they all sighed regretfully as tears streamed down their faces. It's a pity that we aren't cultivators and can't fight and kill for the Imperial Preceptor. Many of them beat their chests and stomped their feet as tears and snot flowed down their faces. Jiang Tian's reform had given them an opportunity and a way out. Once the feudal system was implemented, all the vassals would be vassals. The feudal lords had all the opportunities and benefits, and they would never be able to make a name for themselves. "Then please step out." Suzhou revealed a victorious smile and urged Jiang Tian to establish a divine soul contract with him. "All these aren't important, but killing all of you is very important to me. I have to kill all of you." Passing self Jiang Tian suddenly sneered as a monstrous killing aura surged out and shot out in all directions. While everyone was stunned, passing self Jiang Tian had already shot out like a peerless heavenly blade that could split the heaven and earth. He punched at Suzhou. "Die for me." Snowdance sect. Inside the miniature paradise, Yang Dingtian was about to violate Madame Hu Zhu when Yu Zhu and the other female disciples. Passing self Jiang Tian had transformed into Giant Rock City's City Lord's son, Bai Yulong, to obstruct him. "A mere Giant Rock City's City Lord is nothing. I will send you to hell." Without any agreement, Yang Dingtian immediately condensed a thunder blade and slashed at Dao Jiang Tian. Yang Dingtian was a soul transformation realm cultivator and thought that killing a useless Bai Yulong would be a piece of cake. It would be as easy as crushing an ant. However, an unbelievable scene occurred. "Oh my dear mother. You are so fierce." Bai Yulong waved his hand in a flurry and actually took out a protective jade tablet. Yang Dingtian's divine senses sensed that this protective jade tablet wasn't of a high grade and wouldn't be able to withstand a soul transformation realm cultivator's attack. Especially when Yang Dingtian was a thunder art that was known for its violent attacks. However, something unexpected happened. The protective jade tablet was shining brightly as it propped up a barrier and easily blocked his thunder blade. "He's trying to trick me. This light barrier is obviously condensed by his magic power. He is actually a peerless expert that has surpassed the soul transformation realm." Yang Dingtian's heart lit up with a flash of lightning and broke through the fog. He was shocked and wanted to escape. However, it was already too late. "You didn't know that my artifact is both offensive and defensive. Die." Bai Yulong snorted arrogantly and shattered the jade tablet in his hand. That light barrier suddenly turned into a blazing thunder dragon and pierced through Bai Yulong's head. Yang Dingtian's head exploded, and even his divine treasures were turned into dust. The violent shockwave spread in all directions and instantly tore apart the small paradise boundary. Madame Hu Zhu and the others were sent flying in all directions. In their blurred and distorted vision, the women saw it with extreme pain. Perhaps it was because of the loss of control, Yang Dingtian's artifacts exploded, and the laws and Dao fragments shot out. But Bai Yulong couldn't withstand it and screamed miserably as he was blasted into a bloody mess. He was sent flying while spurting blood. Young Master Bai! The women exclaimed in unison and were filled with concern and regret. Chapter 2007. Could be said that everything happened too quickly. When Bai Yulong appeared and wanted to fight with Yang Dingtian, all the women felt that he was extremely foolish and was bound to lose. He was simply courting death. But in a split second he activated his offensive and defensive artifact and killed Yang Dingtian. This caused all the women to be in ecstasy. But they didn't have the time to be happy. Yang Dingtian's artifact had also exploded, causing Bai Yulong to be severely injured. What is going on? At this moment Lu Manhan and Kong Qing were also shocked. The space rippled violently and became distorted. Then dust and debris flew in all directions. A few naked women were blasted out from the explosion. Help! Help! Madame Hu Zhu and the others didn't care about their shame and begged Lu Manhan for help. This is actually Senior Hu Zhu. Lu Manhan didn't dare to neglect and quickly went forward to help. She took out clothes from her storage ring and helped them put them on. Young Master, how are you? Kong Qing quickly ran to Bai Yulong and cried out nervously. I have protected the honor of the city lord's son and fulfilled the corresponding responsibility. But Madame promised me that if I save my sisters, she will marry two of me. It is a pity that I don't have the chance to get close to her. Bai Yulong was still breathing weakly. He squinted his eyes and muttered two lines, which was in line with his fickle and affectionate persona. Then his head tilted and he breathed his last. At this moment, Madame Hu Zhu, Wen Yuzhu and the other women had consumed the antidote and circulated their cultivation techniques to remove the poison. They regained their freedom and came to Bai Yulong. I didn't expect that Yang Dingtian was a righteous disciple who was known as a peerless genius. But behind the scenes he was actually a notorious and evil lotus harvester. The women were still afraid. I didn't expect that young Master Bai Yulong, who was usually so frivolous, would risk his life to save us at the crucial moment. It is a pity that he died at such a young age. Madame Hu Zhu sighed. When Yuzhu and the other young disciples had fragile hearts and were already shedding tears of grief. Master, we should announce this to the world. Pay respects to young Master Bai properly and expose Yang Dingtian's true identity as the Lotus Harvester. A female disciple said angrily. Madame Hu Zhu's beautiful eyes flickered as she pondered for a moment. Then she calmly said, in order to save us, Bai Yulong perished as a witness. Naturally, this is an honor and we can announce this to the world. But Yang Dingtian's matter is hard to explain. If his father didn't know his true face and insisted on justice instead of taking his anger out on us, it would be fine. But if his father already knew and indulged him, or even if the father and son are both lotus harvesters, then Master is right. It's best not to make it public. The Thunder Yang sect is a peerless divine sect. If they attack, they can easily destroy our sect and crush us to death. When the girls heard this, their faces turned pale and they all shuddered. After reaching an agreement, Madame Hu Zhu looked at Kong Qing and Lu Manhan. You must be young Master Bai's followers. Please follow me to Giant Stone City to meet with the city lord and explain this matter. Yes, madam. At the side, Kong Qing and Lu Manhan nodded, but they secretly looked at each other with suspicion. Could this Bai Yulong really be dead? But subconsciously they felt that it wasn't possible. Thousands of miles away, there was a formless primal chaos circulating slowly, concealing karma and hiding information. There shouldn't be any loopholes. Jiang Tian suddenly appeared and looked back at the Snowdance sect. There was no emotion in his eyes. The young master Bai Yulong, that Yang Dingtian was fighting with, was still his transformation. But the instant he flew out, the corpse that was left behind was just a drop of his essence blood. A few years later he would turn into a pile of yellow soil and a few withered bones. A few decades later there would be no trace of him. Bai Yulong's cultivation wasn't high and couldn't be immortal. Logically it made sense. Huanglinger can also live peacefully for a period of time. Dao pondered in his heart. His expression was calm as his figure flashed and vanished. He would occasionally turn into a bird or a beast or a peddler. Along the way he transformed without a trace and rushed towards the imperial capital to reunite with his true body. When Dao Wujiang Tian charged at Zhou Xian like a peerless heavenly saber, the entire world was silent. Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. Their hearts were surging with torrential waves. Oh my God! Is this person crazy? At this moment, everyone cried out in surprise. Among the people present there was Su Zhu, a void return saint, a few half-saints, and over 100 soul transformation realm experts. Even if only half of them made a move, it wasn't something that Jiang Tian could resist. In fact, even if it was a void return saint, Jiang Tian might not be able to resist. After all, the abyssal devil dragon that Jiang Tian killed was only at the half-saint realm back then. The reason why he was so tyrannical was because he was tainted with demonic nature. But Jiang Tian was actually so powerful and wanted to fight with Su Zhu and the others. It was simply unbelievable. He is courting death. We gave him face and called him saint a few times. He really thinks that he is at the void return realm. I have already forgotten who I am under the flattery of the Eastern Empire. I have lost myself. No matter how strong he is still a nascent soul realm cultivator. So what if he is a sacred grade nascent soul realm cultivator? Do you think that a healthy child can defeat an adult? Many sect leaders sneered and mocked. It was as if Jiang Tian was an ant trying to shake a tree. It was laughable that he overestimated himself. As for Princess Mou Dongfang Ying and even Fairy Qingjue, they all looked at Jiang Tian anxiously and worriedly. But it was already too late to stop him. The two of them were extremely close to each other and the collision could happen in seconds. Jiang Xiqing, you are a nascent soul realm cultivator and can fight against a half-saint. You are indeed a rare genius. But you are still weak after all. Su Zhu laughed sinisterly, and the joy of killing a genius and trampling on a junior was revealed in the depths of his eyes. With a wave of his black sleeve, a stream of light flew out from under his sleeve and turned into a long halberd. The halberd instantly grew in size, resembling a true dragon soaring through the sky as it pierced towards Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian's expression did not change and he did not dodge. He punched fiercely, advancing without retreating. It was extremely ferocious and domineering. You are courting death. Su Zhu's lips curled into a mocking smile, full of confidence. His long halberd was made of the 5 elements and 5 virtues divine metal. The key was that it had been passed down for a long time and had been polished and refined by several saints. It was a true sacred weapon. It completely surpassed the demonic weapon in the hands of the decimating abyss back then. Even a true saint would have to avoid it. But this Jiang Xiqing actually wanted to take it head-on with her physical body. Wasn't this courting death? However, before his smile could completely bloom, it instantly turned into boundless fear and shock. A loud clanging sound was heard like the sound of a great bell. Jiang Tian's punch caused the long halberd to explode and shatter violently. Then his fist moved like a dragon and like a shooting star, it broke through space and penetrated his body and divine treasures. This time everyone was shocked. Chapter 2008. No one would have thought that Jiang Tian was actually so valiant, his strength so terrifying. He destroyed Su Zhu's holy weapon with one punch, broke his body and tore apart his divine treasures. In fact, the divine treasures of Void Return Saints were no longer divine treasures, but virtual sky. Simply put, the divine treasures had evolved into a virtual world, also known as the inner world, and started to nurture their own Dao, forming a world of its own. It was as if there was a miniature world circulating in the body. It could simulate the operation of the endless laws of the 3,000 great Daos. Its power was unfathomable and terrifying. Su Zhu's body and virtual sky shattered. Although there was no world-destroying explosion, it still gave people the feeling that doomsday had arrived and all living things had been destroyed. In the shattered virtual sky, a god's true spirit walked out. His features were similar to Su Zhu's. His expression was tranquil like an ancient well, and his eyes seemed as if they hung high up in the sky for eternity without the slightest emotion. Even if the world collapsed before him, it wouldn't cause him to be affected in the slightest. This true spirit contained laws and principles. It seemed to be eternally unmoving, indestructible, sacred, and emotionless. It emitted an aura like the great Tao. It was the external manifestation of one's own great Tao. The so-called returning to void return, and returning to void return, was not an empty phrase, but a real cultivation process. The true spirit was the evolution of the original God, connecting and merging with the virtual sky. It was like the core processor of the virtual sky, receiving the consciousness of the original God and mobilizing the power of the inner world. Returning to void return was to completely merge the inner world with the outer world, using one's own heart to replace the heaven's heart, extending one's own laws and principles to replace the laws and principles of this world, completely becoming the master of the universe. Simply put, soul formation had the support of status. It was to be recognized and bestowed by this world like the chosen one. It was to pray for the power of this world. As for returning to void return, it was to use one's own inner world to be respected by this world, like equal friends, obtaining a subtle resonance and borrowing its power. Returning to Tao was to completely surpass this world like the master of this world, controlling it in the palm of his hand. Once the true spirit appeared, it was majestic, heavy, sacred, and emotionless, representing absolute rationality and wisdom. He glared at Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian was actually fleeing without a fight. It was just that Zhang Tian punched out once more, simple and crude, and actually shattered this true spirit as well. What? At this moment, everyone was shocked. This is a true return to void stage saint. He actually killed him with a single punch. Even the void sky was crushed. Even the true spirit was not killed. The sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell one after another. Every inch of their muscles was trembling. They were so shocked that they almost couldn't stand still. Our Imperial Preceptor's strength is actually so terrifying. Eastern Lu's eyeballs were about to pop out. They knew that Zhang Tian was tyrannical, but they never imagined that Zhang Tian was this tyrannical. This situation was too shocking. It had to be known that the world of cultivation had a strict hierarchy. Within the same realm, it was inconceivable for someone to kill an enemy one or two small realms above them. As for Zhang Tian, however, he was only at the nascent soul stage, yet he was able to kill his opponent despite being at the soul formation stage and the return to void stage. This was simply terrifying. It could be said that such a genius had not appeared on this continent for 10,000 years. What grade is his nascent soul? Could it be the immortal grade? Even Fairy Qingjue's beautiful eyes were rippling with extraordinary splendor. Her beautiful face was filled with ecstasy. It was one thing for Zhang Tian to not make a move, but the moment he made a move, he killed a void-returning realm sage, a sect master of the divine sect. Such strength had completely exceeded their imagination. At this moment, not only the spectators but the entire Eastern Empire and even the entire Saint Origin world were all shocked by this scene. Die for me. After destroying Suzhou with a single punch, Zhang Tian's battle-intent soared to the heavens, shaking the sun, the moon, and the stars. His body swayed, and his fists were like dragons as they charged toward Elder Yuehua. Fellow Daoist, please listen to me. What I did was completely out of good intentions. I didn't want to be attacked by a group of heroes. Elder Yuehua was terrified, and a pleading expression appeared on her aged face. Although she was begging for mercy, her hands had already formed a defense. He casually waved his hand. A treasured sword that looked like flowing moonlight had already been drawn, and it soared through the sky. Instantly, wherever the sword passed, a golden crow rose up and a moon rabbit floated up and down. Endless light rays formed into threads of sword light. The law of sword and the great Tao intertwined to form a curtain. It was as beautiful as a fleeting shadow, but it was extremely dangerous. A thread of sword light could kill a nascent soul cultivator, and a thread could severely injure a soul formation cultivator. Even a return to void stage saint would have to be careful when facing this sword curtain. At this moment he was filled with regret. Originally he came to the banquet because Zhang Tian could resist the demonic qi and invited him to excavate the ancient treasures together. Who would have thought that Lin Dai, our old ancestor Black Buddha, and Suzhou would lead him step by step into a ditch and stand opposite of Zhang Tian. He also didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so powerful that he could kill Black Buddha and Suzhou in a matter of seconds. Although he had been a half-saint for many years, there was still a gap between their realms. In fact, he was even weaker than Suzhou, so he was no match for Zhang Tian. If he was given another chance, he swore that he would never provoke Zhang Tian again no matter what. I don't blame you. You're innocent. But I have no choice. I want to kill today. I want to kill the innocent. Actually, Zhang Tian had destroyed a saint weapon with a single punch, especially a saint weapon wielded by a saint. His injuries were not light either. Even his fist was shattered, dripping with blood, revealing the white stubble of his bones. However, his battle intent and murderous intent were even stronger and more domineering than before. Kill. Zhang Tian's hair fluttered in the wind like a black waterfall as he threw a fierce punch. Chaotic energy lingered around. This simple and direct punch carried an energy that could split the sky and the earth. It contained endless power, as if it could shatter the sky and collapse the universe. Whoosh. Zhang Tian's fist tore apart the sword curtain that was like moonlight and flowing water. Billions of sword auras were shattered by the domineering fist. The laws and great Daoists were all crushed by the chaotic energy. Even if those chaotic sword auras and the shattered laws and great Daoists cut his body, leaving behind terrifying wounds and making him bloody all over, he didn't retreat at all. Bang! In the end, Zhang Tian's fist landed, and the sword in Elder Yuhua's hand was bent like a dead snake. Elder Yuhua was also sent flying with blood spurting out of his mouth. Half of his body exploded, and his divine treasures were shattered. In the blink of an eye, he died. Saint, please spare my life. Another sect leader, who was also at the peak of the soul formation stage, was scared out of his wits. He begged for mercy as he tried to fly away. However, Zhang Tian only pointed a finger. His flying Dharma artifact immediately broke, and he was destroyed in the air by Zhang Tian. Retreat. This guy is ferocious. We'll gather the army to kill him another day. Saint Xiqing, I have no enmity with you. I'm just here to congratulate you. Please let me go. At this moment, all the leaders of the sects didn't have their original arrogant, overbearing attitudes any longer, and they were terrified to the point of fleeing in all directions without knowing where to go. Didn't you all want to kill me? Didn't you all want to get rid of me for the sake of the world and protect the vicissitudes of justice? I'm right here. Don't go. Zhang Tian roared and his body swayed. He killed in all directions and the sky was filled with his figures. Come. My neck is right here. If you have the guts, come and chop it off. He seemed to have billions of clones, killing everyone he saw. Instantly, heads rolled and blood flowed like a river. Chapter 2009. Saint Xiqing, please spare my life. I've already realized my mistake. Saint, please spare my life. I'm willing to serve you and follow you for the rest of my life. Don't kill me. I know of an ancient treasure. I can take you there. Zhang Xiqing, you're so cruel and vicious. You'll be punished by the heavens if you eat it earlier. Countless cultivators knelt down and begged for mercy. Some cried, some tried to persuade him, and some yelled. However, Zhang Tian didn't waver at all. With a punch, the sky would collapse and the earth would collapse, wiping out a group of them. With a kick, the space would collapse, killing hundreds of them. In the end, almost all the cultivators in the Grand Tutor's residence were killed. Blood and broken limbs were everywhere. The banquet had turned into a slaughterhouse. Friends from afar, come. Today is my housewarming celebration. Let's drink together. Zhang Tian chased out of the Grand Tutor's residence and wandered around the city. He was everywhere. However, without the protection of the array in the Grand Tutor's residence and the fact that he was injured, some people thought they had an opportunity. Cultivators above the soul formation realm might be able to kill him. This guy is ferocious. Don't let him live. He's covered in blood and injured in many places. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for long. Let's work together and kill him while he's weak. Some of the patriarchs and elders roared and quickly reached a consensus. A great battle broke out. In an instant, Zhang Tian was surrounded by 3 half-saints and a dozen soul formation realm cultivators. He was injured all over, but he didn't retreat. This was an earth-shattering battle. Zhang Tian went crazy. His eyes were terrifying and his black hair danced like a waterfall. His punches were simple and straightforward. He didn't use any Dharma arts or divine powers. He just used pure strength and speed. However, there was no force that could compete with him. However, he was also severely injured. His skin was torn and his flesh was torn. His chest bone was exposed. Will Dad be okay? One day I'll become a peerless master too. I'll kill whoever dares to hurt my dad. Bei looked at the sky worriedly. Tears welled up in her eyes and she clenched her fists. He's too powerful. But there are too many enemies. Fairy Qingjue, eldest princess Mou, and the others were guarding Jiang Tian tightly. They were also worried for Jiang Tian. The semi-god realm warriors charged at Jiang Tian one after another like moths darting into a flame. They were not afraid of death. Jiang Tian was besieged. His blood dyed the sky red. However, under such circumstances, Jiang Tian still managed to snatch a holy sword from one of them, cleaving it into two halves and killing the god. Boom. Past what Jiang Tian's back took a solid hit, a fist-sized bloody hole appeared, the front and back of his body were penetrated. Another half-saint had arrived. He came from one of the top 20 sects. His expression was cold and his attacks were vicious. Take the opportunity to sneak attack. Young people don't talk about martial virtues. Go lie and sneak attack your grandpa Jiang Xiqing. However, Jiang Tian also went crazy because of that. His murderous intent was endless. He rushed forward and crushed the head of one of the half-saints, burning his body into ashes. That battle was particularly fierce. They were fighting with their lives on the line. There was no luck at all. Sacred blood splashed everywhere and divine bones were everywhere. Even the supreme overlords were dying. You don't have a chance anymore. Even if you're talented, can you defeat all of us? A half-saint snickered cruelly. He was extremely old. Time had almost exhausted his lifespan, but he forcefully gathered his energy and had the power to fight. Another soul formation grand cultivator from a reclusive sect used all kinds of secret arts and divine arts to attack crazily and yelled, "Master, you've been killed." He shouted, "You're going to kill a nascent soul cultivator with such a powerful team. You won't die in vain." Jiang Tian's eyes were sharp, not saying a single word. His fist technique was broad, majestic and wild, carrying a primal chaos aura, as if it could open up heaven and earth as well as wipe out the universe. It directly smashed over. Clang. Another sacred weapon was shattered. It was a tree of immortality. Its master, an experienced half-saint, trembled violently. The fist mark that could crush the sky landed on his body. His limbs and bones kept making noises and many of them were broken. Poof. He coughed out blood. The golden blood kept collapsing the sky and his body withered. But soon, countless terrifying blood marks appeared on his divine treasures like spider webs and then spread to his body. That was Jiang Tian's terrifying physical strength. It was fierce and domineering. It was terrifying even without using Dharma power or divine powers. However, Jiang Tian, also paid a heavy price for my death. Kill. Another bald half-saint attacked him from behind with a hammer that was as heavy as a millstone. It almost smashed his shoulder. Jiang Tian immediately spurted out blood. At the same time, a few flying swords attacked and cut open his body, almost exposing his organs. Even his bones were broken. Die. Apart from this, a sect master at the peak of the divine transformation realm wielded a blood spear. He quickly closed in, launching a sneak attack from below. It pierced through his chest, shattering a large portion of his inner organs. Young man, you don't talk about martial ethics. I advise you to behave yourself. However, Jiang Tian didn't even frown. He fiercely twisted his body and forcefully broke this blood spear. The moment he turned around, he pulled out the broken spear and stabbed it into the sect master's forehead. Poof! Divine blood gushed out. It was incomparably heavy and could crush space. The broken spear pierced through the sect master's forehead and came out from the back of his head. His soul was shattered. It was incomparably bloody and tragic. His corpse fell from the sky. This battle was incomparably tragic and bloody. Could be said to be world-shaking and unprecedented. Jiang Tian's body was covered in injuries. Many places were pierced, but he killed 4 half-saints and 10 soul formation realm experts. The remaining enemies were also heavily injured. However, could this situation continue? Jiang Tian was fighting with his life on the line. His entire body was covered in blood, and the fragments of laws and great Tao that were left in his wounds were still crazily invading his internal organs, body, and even his divine treasures like nuclear radiation. The Imperial Preceptor is fighting for the people of this land. He is creating a fairer new world. For the righteous path. He is fighting for the rise of the common people. At this moment, countless people looked at the sky with red eyes. They were all worried. Imperial Preceptor, how can we repay your kindness? Many people were so moved that tears streamed down their faces. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed like believers worshipping an idol. Zhang Tian was in a high position, but he didn't work with the nobles. Instead he fought for the common people. Mr. Zhang, you can come back. They have already been defeated. Princess Mou persuaded with tears in her eyes. Senior, don't fight anymore. Dongfang Ying's tears were like broken pearls, sobbing uncontrollably, afraid that Zhang Tian would die here. In fact, the sect giants who had attacked Zhang Tian were all waiting for a critical point. This was the moment when victory and defeat were reversed. After all, Zhang Tian was injured. His fighting style was too wild. He could only advance and not retreat. He did not heal his injuries and only attacked. As a result, the new injuries added to the old injuries. Logically speaking, his fighting strength would soon fade away. However, reality was cruel. Not only did Zhang Tian's fighting strength not decrease in the slightest, it was also increasing steadily. On the other hand, the giants of the hidden sects fell one after another. In the end, they were completely terrified. The remaining soul formation realm experts screamed and fled in all directions, panicking like stray dogs. Today all the sects that come to besiege me will be destroyed. Zhang Tian roared and turned into a ray of golden light. He rushed into the clouds and jumped into the void. His target was the world-defying sect in the middle of the continent. At this moment everyone was stunned. They trembled and felt uneasy. This was too domineering. Killing the world-defying sect master Su Zhi was not enough. Was he going to exterminate the sect? Chapter 2010. 2 hours later. When I, Zhang Tian, arrived at the world-defying sect, I punched out and destroyed this sect. No matter how the elders and disciples of the Aoshi sect begged, Zhang Tian attacked mercilessly. His fists broke the heavens and earth, and his legs swept the sun and moon. Thousands of people died with just a wave of his hand. In the blink of an eye, the Aoshi sect's heads rolled and blood flowed like a river. All the disciples were killed. An hour later, when I, Zhang Tian, arrived at the Buddha-defying sect, I also slaughtered everyone. All the evil monks in the sect were killed. Then, Frost Moonsword sect, Ice Fire sect, Great Sword Tower, Moving Mountain sect, Zhang Tian galloped through the heavens and earth, moving through the continent and sweeping through everything in his path. Anyone who went against him would be destroyed. At this moment the entire continent was extremely shocked. Too terrifying. I haven't seen such an expert in at least several hundred years. He has an unparalleled appearance. The monarchs and leaders of many countries, as well as the powerhouses of the divine sects and sacred grounds, all looked at the wild figure covered in blood. They were shocked, nervous, and terrified. When I, Zhang Tian, was massacring everyone in my path. Luoying sect. In a spacious and bright hall. Huang Linger sat behind a graceful woman in a palace dress. Her face was bitter and she was crying secretly. Opposite her sat a middle-aged man with a beard. He was tall and strong and his face was tattooed with lightning. Today the sect master of the Thunderyang sect and the Luoying sect's sect master, Lian Huahun, were discussing the details of the wedding. When Yang Yongchang saw Huang Linger's sad face, he couldn't help but laugh. Why are you so sad? Are you not satisfied with Tianer? He smiled bitterly and sighed. I'm not boasting. In fact, Tianer is a good man with both talent and looks. He's definitely a good match. It's just that he's busy with the sect's affairs, so he didn't come personally. If you can see him, you'll definitely like him. This girl is just too infatuated. I've told her so many times, but she can't see through me. Even Lian Huahun couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She knew that Huang Linger had someone she loved deeply on earth, so she was very resistant to this marriage. Merely, Lian Huahun felt that this was unrealistic. Huang Linger had already stepped into the central galaxy and belonged to a completely different level of life. A few hundred to 1,000 years was just a phase in a cultivator's life, but for an ordinary person it was a lifetime. If Huang Linger was together with the cultivator she admired, even if he was not immortal and just had a low cultivation level, it would still be inappropriate. When she was still in her prime, her lover might have already turned into a pile of yellow earth and a few white bones. With this thought in mind, Lian Huahun smiled and said, Brother Yang, on Linger's home planet, marriages between men and women are always attended by their parents and relatives. Now the wedding day is just around the corner, but your parents and family are far away from you. It is understandable that they are feeling sad. Understandable. Yang Yongchang laughed heartily and did not take it to heart. Sect leader Yang, please forgive me for my rudeness. Huang Linger put away her sadness and curtsied with a smile. Her every move was graceful like a peerless pearl, a rare treasure. It's okay. Yang Yongchang admired her very much. Huang Linger's face was calm, but she had made up her mind. It was Lian Huahun who had saved her on Mars. She had to repay her for saving her life. The wedding had to be held. But there was no point in living like this. Then she would kill herself immediately after the ceremony. Yang Yongchang and Lian Huahun's laughter rang in her ears again. The higher-ups of the two sects were very happy about the upcoming wedding. This represented an alliance that would strengthen their forces. However, all of a sudden, Yang Yongchang's expression changed drastically. He jumped to his feet and exclaimed, "Oh no! Something happened." The soul tablet on his waist flickered rapidly before it was completely extinguished. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. He's dead. Who dares to make a move on Yang Zongzi? This is simply unbelievable. The culprit behind the scenes killed a soul transformation realm expert in 5 seconds. He should have the strength of a void return saint. The higher-ups of the two sects had a drastic change in expression. They were filled with disbelief, anger, sadness, suspicion, and complicated emotions. Brother Yang, who would make a move on Tian? Even Lian Huahun stood up with a startled expression. She didn't expect such a thing to happen. It was equivalent to the failure of the marriage alliance between the Thunder Yang sect and the Luoying sect. Yang Yongchang frowned and didn't say a word. The culprit acted too quickly. Yang Dingtian didn't have time to use the communication artifact to leave behind any clues. Looking at the location where the soul tablet went out, it should be something that happened in the Eastern Empire. Could this be related to Jiang Xiqing? Someone made a guess. Because the experts of the mortal empires, even the imperial clan, wouldn't dare to make a move on the experts of the hidden sections. Especially when the Thunder Yang sect was a relatively large sect. In the Eastern Empire, Jiang Xiqing was probably the only one who dared to make a move on the Thunder Yang sect who was at the Saint Realm. No, the state preceptor's housewarming ceremony is ongoing. Jiang Xiqing is too busy. It can't be him. Someone shook his head resolutely. It shouldn't be him. Many people deeply agreed with him. Jiang Xiqing was tyrannical. If he killed someone, he wouldn't hide it and would do it openly. At this time, a messenger disciple walked in. He bowed and said quickly, "Senior brother, I'm sorry." He quickly said, "Zhongnu seniors of the Thunder Yang sect, I have an important matter to report. Speak." Lian Huahun waved her sleeves and said, "During the Eastern Empire's State Preceptor Xiqing's housewarming ceremony, State Preceptor Xiqing had a conflict with the world-defying sects Suzhi, the Defying Buddha sect's old ancestor Black Buddha, and the Cold Moon Sword sect's elder Yu Hua because of the abolition of the Marquis system. Both sides fought. Suzhi, Black Buddha, Yu Hua and many other experts fell." That disciple gasped for breath and said, "After Jiang Xiqing killed 4 half-saints and 38 soul transformation experts, he left the Eastern Imperial City and went to the continent. He pushed his way through and eliminated the Cold Moon Sword sect." What? Everyone was shocked. They had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful. Even some saints with years of experience might not be able to achieve such a feat, let alone them. It could be said that Jiang Tian's battle had pushed him to the top 10 of the continental combat power roll, which was enough for him to stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants in the sacred grounds. No one had thought that Jiang Tian would be so powerful that he even dared to destroy the divine sects. Jiang Tian came from a remote planet outside the Milky Way. It was said that he came from the Black Sun planet region. Refugees from such a remote planet would have a natural sense of inferiority and fear when facing the natives of the continent. It was like an ordinary person facing a cultivator or an ant facing a human. That kind of fear went deep into the bones and couldn't be overcome. It was instinctive. Perhaps in the ancient times, the central galaxy had suppressed a planet outside the Milky Way, which brought extreme fear to their ancestors. It had become a taboo in their minds and a part of their bloodline. And that fear had been passed down through their bloodline. The giants of the ancient medicine hall and the 9 mystery sect have already left. I hope they can persuade Jiang Xiqing to stop killing. What about us? The disciple asked. I'll go myself. Lian Huahun bowed to Yang Yongchang and said apologetically, Brother Yang, I'm sorry for your loss. Also, my father is in seclusion. I'm afraid I'll have to deal with the chaos in the Eastern Empire. Go Tao. Yang Yongchong quickly nodded. Then he planned to leave the Luoying sect to investigate the mysterious death of his son. However, before he left, he called the messenger disciple and said, "Can you give me a detailed report of the battle at the banquet?" Chapter 2011. Of course. Senior, please take a look. The messenger disciple quickly handed over a jade scroll. These things happened in public and couldn't be concealed. There was no need to conceal it either. As expected, it isn't him. Yang Yongchong immediately realized that Jiang Xiqing was fighting with the big shots in the state preceptor's residence when his son perished. Who is it? Why did they kill my Tian? He frowned and left in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, all the big shots in the hall had left. Huang Linger was stunned for a moment and couldn't believe what had just happened. Yang Dingtian had suddenly perished and this marriage contract was naturally invalid. Beside her, the blue-clothed senior Xing snorted and spoke with disdain. Huang Linger, without this marriage contract, you are no longer the future wife of the Thunder Yang sect patriarch. Recognize your status. In fact, Huang Linger had always treated people humbly and appropriately. But Senior Xing and these native disciples had a deep prejudice against the cultivators from outside the river and loved to nitpick. Senior, I understand. Huang Linger bowed deeply with a respectful attitude. Senior Xing, why are you being so fierce? You are just a senior and not a master. What right do you have to give orders? Linger, don't be afraid of him. If he dares to bully you, we will report to our master. Linger, let's go to Wuzhou City at the foot of the mountain to buy some rouge and powder. A few of the senior and junior sisters suddenly stood on Huang Linger's side and protected her, causing Senior Xing to be speechless. Didn't this group of girls hate Huang Linger the most and want nothing more than to eat her flesh and sleep on her skin? How did they become friends so quickly? Senior Xing couldn't understand the friendship between women. But he didn't know. This group of women didn't truly hate Huang Linger. They were just jealous that she could find a suitable husband. Now that Yang Dingtian was dead and Huang Linger was the same as them, they would naturally accept it. Of course, if Huang Linger wasn't in the 10 Beauties painting and was mediocre and ugly, they would be even more fond of her. Sure. Huang Linger smiled sweetly, her beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape, bright and beautiful like the warm spring sun. He felt like a bird that had just been released from its cage. His body and mind were extremely relaxed, as if the world had become bigger. Yang Dingtian is dead. Why am I so happy? All of a sudden, the little girl frowned and blamed herself for her viciousness and darkness. But soon she figured it out. Yang Dingtian's life and death have nothing to do with me. I'm just happy because the engagement was cancelled. I also hope that she can live. Huang Linger's state of mind became relaxed again. Stepping on the flying sword, she flew down the mountain with her senior sisters towards Wuzhou City. The hall master of the ancient medicine hall, Pill Sage Gu He, a supreme elder of the Nine Mysteries sect, and Lian Huahun were still a step too late. Although their movement techniques were extremely fast and would only require 2 to 3 days to traverse the entire continent, they were still a step too late. They were simply unable to catch up to Jiang Tian's pace. When they arrived at a sect, they would see a sect that had been completely exterminated, and Jiang Tian's figure was nowhere to be seen. Jiang Tian had already completed this massacre. Cold Moon Sword sect, Aoshi sect, Defying Buddha sect, and all the other large and small sects were all exterminated. This was an extremely cruel massacre, and at least tens of thousands of people had died in the hands of Jiang Tian. The scene was extremely cruel, and many sects were uprooted along with their mountain gates and foundations. There were also some sects that didn't even have the corpses of their disciples, as they had all turned into ashes and were annihilated from this world. What was even more shocking was that when Jiang Tian traversed the entire continent and eliminated the enemy sects, the feudal lords of the state minister's residence were so frightened that they didn't even dare to run. Instead, they obediently knelt on the ground and began to repent and hand over their power. They cried bitterly, claiming that they had been blinded by Lard to collude with the reclusive sects and become enemies with the state minister. They hoped that the Eastern royal family would forgive them and put in a good word for them in front of Jiang Tian so that he wouldn't kill them. After all, with Jiang Tian's decisive personality, he would definitely settle the score and kill them all. Not even a chicken or a dog would be spared. Zhang Tian had shown them that his strength was comparable to that of a sage. They were worried that Zhang Tian would leave behind a doppelganger or some other backup plan to kill them directly. Generally speaking, the doppelganger left behind by a sage was about the strength of a soul formation cultivator. Logically speaking, with so many soul formation cultivators working together, they should be able to escape. However, they didn't dare to take the risk. They had already been scared out of their wits by Zhang Tian and their psychological defenses had collapsed. Moreover, Fairy Qingjue of the Nine Mysteries sect was on the side of the imperial family. If he attacked, the feudal lords wouldn't be able to resist. After all, he was a real half-step void return cultivator. However, Wu Yachong and the other princes and envoys of the other countries had already left. They were also afraid that Zhang Tian would settle the score with them. Of course they fled. As for Eastern Lu, he didn't dare to stop them. After all, if he did, it would be a big deal. It would cause chaos and many empires would besiege them. 3 days later, Zhang Tian landed in the imperial advisor's residence. His body was covered in blood and his clothes were ragged. His face was as pale as a sheet and he was panting heavily. Divine blood spilled all over the ground, dragging long bloodstains on his clothes. He staggered and was on the verge of collapsing. "Dad!" Jiang Beibei rushed to him with tears in her beautiful eyes. "Master, are you okay?" Blackie also went to Zhang Tian and supported him. His youthful face was full of concern. He was funny and loved to joke. Normally, when Zhang Tian was defeated, he would secretly tease him or pretend to be nervous even if he was concerned. But today he was really worried. Because Zhang Tian was seriously injured this time. There were countless wounds all over his body, even endangering his spirit embryo and nascent soul. Those wounds were sometimes repaired by Zhang Tian's vast magic power, and sometimes cut by the strange laws of the Great Tao. Blood flowed, bones were exposed and organs were damaged. Imperial Advisor. Eastern Lu led the royal family to greet him. Mo Yu and Dong Fong-ing were already tearing up. Senior. Lin Hanqing and Fong Jinlong also went to greet him. Lin Yang and Fong Goyu both knelt on the ground. Their hearts were full of regret. Zhang Tian had informed them in advance of this big change, and they had promised to cooperate. But in the end there was still an accident. Lin Dyer had ruined everything. Originally, this big battle didn't have to happen. Now Zhang Tian could be said to have walked in front of the gates of hell. He's back. Lin Dyer was so shocked that she knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. Her heart was full of regret and her pretty face was pale. She never thought that Zhang Tian's strength would be so tyrannical. He had killed a saint and killed many half-saints and soul formation cultivators. This valiant battle record was enough to stand proudly at the top of the Saint Origin continent and be on par with the giants of the sacred grounds. When she recalled Zhang Tian's decisive appearance and how she defended Zhang Tian time and time again, she was terrified from the bottom of her heart. This was a peerless, ferocious god that would easily annihilate an entire clan, and he was ruthless and merciless to the extreme. At this moment she really regretted it. If she hadn't looked down on Zhang Tian because of his background, she wouldn't have been defeated time and time again. In the end, she wouldn't have walked to the opposite side of Zhang Tian, or even the opposite side of the entire Eastern Empire. Chapter 2012. Lord Imperial Tutor, take care. Please don't leave us. Imperial Tutor. At this moment, many commoners saw this scene through their observation artifacts. They all bowed in the air and shed tears of gratitude. This battle was getting more and more intense. The passing Mi Zhang Tian paid the price of half his life. He brushed shoulders with death time and time again. He fell into desperate situations time and time again. He narrowly escaped death. He used his blood to fill the sky and suppress the vassals. He opened up a path for the commoners and the lower class. From now on, the great Tao faced the heavens. Everyone could become a talent and ascend to the heavens. It could even be said that the impact of this battle was not limited to the Eastern Empire. It would affect the entire Saint Origin continent. By planting a seed, the mortal empires could be strong enough and still walk their own path. They would not have to submit to the reclusive sects, be manipulated by them and be their puppets. I can still fight. The passing Mi Zhang Tian waved his hand and dismissed the crowd. He sat cross-legged on the high platform. What are you worried about? I fought to my heart's content. I wanted to continue playing music and fighting. Unfortunately, no one is coming to kill me. Wuchang is running too fast. He was riddled with wounds and on the verge of death. But at this moment he was full of vigor. He was like a god who stood high above the 9 heavens and looked down on the world. The vassals and even Eastern Lu were firmly suppressed. Thump, thump. The vassals knelt down in fright. "We know our wrongs. Please forgive us, Imperial Tutor. Indeed, the feudal system has many drawbacks. It makes us enjoy leisure and hate work and bully the weak. It makes the lower class lose the opportunity and path to promotion. In the long run, the country will not be a country. We support the Imperial Tutor's abolition of the feudal system and voluntarily give up our titles. Xiqing, Imperial Tutor, is wholeheartedly for the public good. We, on the other hand, have forgotten our loyalty and patriotism for the sake of our own strength. We have sinned deeply. Whoever is the enemy of the imperial preceptor and obstructs the implementation of the county system is the same as forgetting the teachings of the ancestors. They are the enemy of the whole world and reversing the wheel of history. When they hit hard and step on it 10,000 times, they will never be able to rise again." One after another, the dukes and marquises knelt on the ground and cried out in unison, scrambling to show their loyalty. They were afraid that if they were a step too late, they would end up like Suzhou and old ancestor Black Buddha, who would be killed by Zhang Tian. "Imperial Tutor, I'm guilty. I'm a traitor, I've committed a grave sin." This was especially true for the Duke of Westridge, who slapped himself again and again. He claimed that he had been confused for a moment and was willing to admit his guilt. However, he begged Zhang Tian to spare his family. It turned out that he was worried about being stripped of his title and fief, so he formed an alliance with the proud world sect Zhou Xian. The condition was that Zhou Xian would help him become the king, and the world-defying stage sect would be worshipped as the national religion, with the support of the entire country. At this point, many of the dukes and marquises had completely given up on resisting. He could no longer care about his own death. All he wanted was to protect his descendants and bloodline. If you agree to bet, you must accept your loss. Aristocratic families were as deep as the sea. Even the rich and powerful families could fight to the death for a city or a pool. What's more, it's a battle in the imperial court. Although there were less than 1,000 participants in this big battle at the Imperial Tutor's housewarming banquet, they were all top-level battles. The level was extremely high. Most of them were above the soul formation realm. There were also many half-saints and even saints. It involved the dukes, the royal family, and the top-ranked sections. In fact, it was equivalent to an army of 1,000,000 cultivators facing off. It was equivalent to a large-scale war. As the victor, Zhang Tian should naturally carry out a bloodbath. "You are indeed unforgivable. I'll spare your descendants. Rest in peace," Zhang Tian said indifferently. He raised his hand and pointed. A loud bang was heard. The trembling Duke of Westridge's body exploded. Sparkling flesh rained down and broken bones flew in all directions, covering a large area. "Saint, please calm down." The dukes trembled in fear. "Bastard, did you collude with Crown Prince Yachong and incite Lin Dyer?" The Duke of Eastern Gorge also pulled his daughter Long Juxue to kneel down and slapped her a few times. "Bastard. I've warned you again and again that the saint saved my life on the 100 Flowers Peak. The Long family has to be loyal in the future. You promised, but I'm willing to accept defeat. I'm willing to commit suicide to atone for my sins." Long Juxue also regretted it at this moment. She smiled miserably and self-destructed her nascent soul, dying an unnatural death. She was extremely beautiful and was known as a genius. Too many people chased after her and she was too arrogant. She couldn't accept Zhang Tian's humiliation and suppression of her. Every time she thought of it, she felt uneasy in her bedroom. Long Juxue held a grudge in her heart, so she colluded with Crown Prince Yachong and bewitched Lin Dyer. "Bastard, it's your turn." Lin Hanqing slapped Lin Dyer's face. Lin Hanqing was angry and didn't hit lightly. Smack. Lin Dyer flew to the ground. A few clear palm prints appeared on her pretty face. Blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. Her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in dust. She was in a mess. "Mr. Jiang, I know I was wrong. Please accept me. I'm willing to be your slave. I'm willing to follow you." At this moment, Lin Dyer was really scared. After all, in the face of a life and death threat, Zhang Tian even dared to destroy a famous sect. What nobility did she have? She raised her tearful little face and begged for mercy, just like a pug that had seen its master. Lin Dyer was confident that with her beauty she could move Zhang Tian. However, she found that Zhang Tian was looking at her coldly. It was as if he was looking at a bedbug. There was no desire or warmth in his eyes, only coldness and disgust. As long as you don't kill me, I can do any position. I'll definitely take good care of Bebe and treat her as my own. I promise to be loyal to you. The girl was also panicking. She stuck out her hips and crawled to Zhang Tian. She was a weeping beauty, weak and easily bullied. At this moment her waist sank and twisted, looking even more slender. Her tempting snow-white and tender chest was also exposed as she spoke incoherently. At this point, is your only capital your beauty? Zhang Tian snorted, his eyes cold and without the slightest ripple. Fang Jinlong shook his head in disappointment. Lin Hanqing's daughter was too stupid. What kind of existence was State Preceptor Xiqing? What kind of woman couldn't she find? Using her beauty to seduce him was simply a bad idea. That day you humiliated the State Preceptor again and again. Have you ever thought of this day? Lin Hanqing looked up to the sky and sighed, lamenting her misfortune and angry at her failure to fight. At first he wanted Lin Dyer to marry Zhang Tian, but Lin Dyer firmly refused and threatened to kill herself. She looked down on Zhang Tian for being a cultivator from outside the river and bringing along a burden. But now, not only was Zhang Tian the state preceptor, but he also suppressed the entire continent and was a peerless giant. Fairy Qingjue had announced her feelings for him. Princess Mou and the little princess were interested in him. In fact, this was nothing. However, Lin Dyer was so stupid to be instigated and used by Long Juxue and Crown Prince Yichang to stand against Zhang Tian. Now she had ended up in such a miserable state. Who can you blame? I gave you a chance but you didn't grasp it. Lin Yang also sighed. He didn't want his sister to die. He naturally wanted to persuade Zhang Tian, but he realized that there was nothing to say. After all, Zhang Tian had given Lin Dyer too many chances, but she courted death time and time again. It could be said that now that Zhang Tian had killed Lin Dyer, the Lin family couldn't blame Zhang Tian at all. After all, if not for Zhang Tian's heaven-defying strength, he would have been killed by Lin Dyer long ago. Even if you have other women, I won't be jealous. I just want to be the woman behind you. Lin Dyer hugged Zhang Tian's calf tightly and pressed her full and soft chest against it. At this time Lin Dyer didn't look like the heir of a duke at all. She didn't have the slightest arrogance or reservation, but a pitiful and obedient look, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. Ah, you ugly monster, you still want to seduce me? A toad wants to eat swan meat. Zhang Tian raised his foot and kicked her to the side. Lin Dyer was kicked 7 or 8 meters away and her head was bleeding. She got up and glared at him, not sure if it was a plea or a threat. What are you looking at? Zhang Tian pointed in the air. Chaotic god-shattering finger. Completely restrained, simple and unadorned. A bloody hole appeared in Lin Dyer's forehead, and her divine soul was shattered. She was directly carried by the huge inertia and flew 7 or 8 meters away, knocking over a few tables before falling to the ground. She fell flat on her back and under her messy skirt her body was exposed. She was in a sorry state. Her beautiful eyes were still wide open, full of astonishment. She couldn't believe that Zhang Tian could be so ruthless. He didn't have the slightest pity for the fairer sex. He cared about their old relationship and killed her directly.